Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Apex Racing TV, and welcome to the Okayama circuit in Japan for the Rotax Simracing Challenge. Getting set for a few heat races and a feature race as well, and we're delighted to be bringing you the action this afternoon from former host of the Pacific Grand Prix in 1994 and 1995. Well, I'm Adam Bath, and joining me in the commentary box for this one is Wei Han Chan, and of course from Rotax we've got Alex Goldschmidt as well, with Frederick Nichtel on the cameras too. And Wei Han, welcome, and we're getting set for a very interesting few races ahead here, with the first heat race coming up in a few moments.
Oh, we sure are. There are no. I would find that this combination of Skip, Barber, and Okayama is among the best on the iRacing service. You have pretty much the more accessible content here, and with a good combination of a car that is not exactly the most forgiving yet still manageable to drive, and a track like this, we will see a lot of good racing action.
And Alex, someone that's immersed in the world of Rotax, what kind of driver are we expecting to see today, and what are you expecting to see from Okayama as well?
Well, our pole setter, Johnny Guindy from Mexico, stole it from Mikko Nassi from just 2/1000ths of a second. And bearing in mind, we had 540 drivers from over 60 different nationalities across the globe going into the 3 days of qualifying. It was that tight, 1.1 seconds between the top 72. 3.1 seconds between the top 270. So it's going to be one of those interesting dynamics here. You've got I think one of the interesting statistics that people might not know about is that the fact that 60% that have qualified out of the top 10 and out of the top 72, Adam, are kart racers. And some of them have actually been plying their trade on Sims for quite a few years, one of which is the guy that qualified in 10th place, Jan Schwitter, normally with FM Racing in DD2. So I'm rather excited. I think unpredictability, whenever I go into a Rotax commentary weekend, Adam, is the key word. That's going to be the case here at Okayama.
And is there a bit of correlation between what you see in real life and as to what you see in the sim in terms of pace, or are there a few surprise names that seem to crop up at the front on occasion?
Well, I didn't know about Jan's background. Laszlo Zueva from Hungary, he's also a Rotax racer. Robert De Haan, who's a junior Rotax Grand Finals champion back in Brazil, he's qualified 26th. Guilherme de Oliveira, Matthew Higgins, son of 10-time American Rally champion David Higgins, is in this field. So there are a lot of Rotax racers that I think will give the sim racers a run for their money. And with 60% qualifying in this, it's such and the correlation as I'm now going to allude to, going a bit around the houses there, Adam, really does show that there is so much. I'm really impressed with how you have things such as iRacing and other platforms that really do provide such great realism, the dynamics of the cars, and what a track and what a set of cars. I think, as Wei Han Chan said, these cars are going to be tested over 870 in terms of altitude. So the cars are naturally aspirated, but the slipstream is going to be one of the key things here. But the qualifying really showed who was on point in terms of putting in the one lap. And Johnny just did it with a warm-up session in one qualifying session and then nailed the lap. And I saw the onboards, and that was incredibly impressive. So I'm expecting anything to happen this afternoon.
Just a quick one from me. Is he related to Mark Higgins at all? I know he's a rally driver.
Yes, yeah. I think you might be very well right. That is the case. The man that went round the TT Isle of Man course in the Subaru Impreza WRX at an absolutely blistering speed. So Matthew and David. David's taken a sort of sabbatical this year, from what I understand, and Matthew's been running in senior Rotax this season. B&L Karting Series kickoff, he wiped the floor with everybody, and he has been putting in the laps. So have quite a few of the other Rotax drivers, but it was incredibly close. I think 3 other drivers could have made it had they been 200ths quicker in the 3 days of quali earlier on this week, Adam.
Oh, interesting. There you go. The reason why you're not seeing too many cars on track at the moment is because it is a lone qualifying session, so everybody gets the track to themselves and they get to set a few laps, and that will set the grid for the race. And it's worth running through the format for you, and I hope this doesn't get too confusing for you. We start on with this quick qualifying session, 10 minutes, 2 laps. It gives you 10 minutes to set 2 laps there. Then we have a 25-minute pre-final A, which is the first of the heat races, 25 minutes. Then after that, we have a quick break, and then we're back for another 10-minute qualifying session where the drivers have the opportunity to set 2 laps. And then we have our B pre-finale, another 25-minute race between 1:15 British Summer Time and 1:45, so 2:15 Central European Time. Then we go on a break for quite a little while, just under an hour, and then we're back for another qualifying session at 1:50 GMT, which is 1:50 BST, and then we have our big final, 25 minutes. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. Qualifying session coming to an end, and Wei Han, these Skip Barber cars, I think you and me have got some good experience of driving these. They are pretty slippery to drive, and once you get into the draft, they pick up speed pretty quickly. And at a track like Okayama, I think we're going to see quite a lot of that today, as the grid is now on the screen.
They very much do. Well, in fact, these cars, they do have spoilers on them, but they do not have that much downforce. With that said, any aero advantage will help these cars greatly. These cars do use road tires, some kind of road radial tires, which means that you have to kind of ring them along the necks in order to get the best out of the cars.
There we go. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Cars starting to appear on your screen now on the grid. As we said, 25-minute race for this pre-finale, first pre-finale of the afternoon. It's Johnny Gwindy from Mexico starting on the pole. And then it's Patrick Woods-Toff in second. Then it's Kenneth O'Keefe starting in third. And the rest of the top 10 appearing on your screen as well. Baldi Zabo, as Alex was talking about at the beginning of the show. And some big names in that top 10, Alex.
Martin Rennhofer is part of the Speed World Academy based out of Austria. A big thank you to Michael Fiedler, who's actually put this all together, make this all happen. Coming down the order, Phil Hill from Germany is the name I remember. Marcus Lutzio, who actually entered this competition as a sim racer. He's actually running with Dan Holland Racing. Laszlo Zueva running down 23rd place there. So there's quite a few drivers that are really, but just looking at how close it is, the pole time from Johnny Gindy. Okay, it was only 3/10 off, but he's still over 2/10 quicker than the guy alongside him in second position at the minute. So this is going to be quite interesting here.
And we're underway indeed, yeah, and it's a good start from the Mexican, Johnny Gwindy. He's going to lead into the first corner. Watch out for Kenneth O'Keefe, the Canadian, already battling away with Zabo. Through the left-hander we go, wheel to wheel between those two, and you can see how slippery these cars are. They are all over the place going through the first left-hander. And now we get onto the first really major straight of the circuit, heading towards the 180-degree right-hander, the hairpin, going onto the back straight, and it's a good start from the Mexican, Wei Han. Gwindy is already consolidating his lead, but here's the real test now as we go onto the back straight. A lot of slipstreaming set to take place.
Surely this is where drivers will go 2 or 3 abreast even as they try to get as much pace as they can to edge one another out. Johnny Gwindy he is in first. Patrick and Kenneth, they are in second and third. So this is slipstream that they are offering one another. We will see drivers opting to take either line as they break into this hairpin.
Through the hairpin we go indeed, and the two Zabos are right with each other. Not too many places gained in the top 10 in the early stages, Alex. Batafulier, the Frenchman, has managed to gain a place from 8th to 7th, and we're looking here at Baldi Zabo. He's got Nicholas Zabo right behind him now.
Yeah, Zabo Baldasar doing a good job, but I did note that there was a couple of cars going off at the first turn when we went into turn 1 for the very first time, Adam. So there's a couple of people that will be on the back foot. But Alberto Palencia from Spain down in 20th behind Marcus Lutzio. He's actually got past him as Laszlo Zueva's up into the top 20 now. So Alberto Palencia is a former kart racer, and he's actually he's a mechanic now with the Spanish karting team. So even the old hands are getting in on the action.
Indeed, yeah. Here's a replay of what happened at the start. You did mention it. It's the Swede, Benjamin Jurgensen, who's gone off. Looks like he's lost the rear end of his Skip Barber car. A lot of damage to the rear end there. Looks like the Brazilian João de Gregorio has also lost a few positions in the early going too. So end of the first lap then. 25-minute race, of course. It's Johnny Gwindy that leads the way. Patrick Woods-Toff in second. Kenneth O'Keefe in third. So it's Canadian second and third. And then it's Baldi Zabo, Nicholas Zabo, Martin Rennhofer in sixth, and then Maxim Batafulier in seventh, and Flavio Dantas, Nico Reipel and Louis Stockleff in running out the top 10. And here we go back onto the back straight, and there's a huge gaggle of cars in Wei Han between Nicolas Sabo in 6th down to Batafulier in 9th. This is going to be really intriguing to watch as the cars start to fan out down the straight.
Surely, we do have a couple of distinct battle packs. They range from 2 cars, which is exactly what's going on between Renhofer and Nicholas Sabo. And we've also got a couple more that go on behind there. You do see drivers kind of locking up through the hairpin. It's not exactly an easy corner to take in.
And Alex, it looks like problems for 2 more cars. Charles Bear and Timotheus Stuka, both in the pits as well. Bad starts to the afternoon for them.
Yeah, I mean, for those wondering at home, the top 18 after the race will go through to the grand final a little bit later on this afternoon. Yeah, I mean, it's very much the case that they probably had a bit of damage. There's probably been some contact around here at Okayama for the pair of them, or whether they've had a disconnect. So it can sometimes happen. I've noticed that quite a bit where drivers have been sort of eliminated from a race because of that. So whether that's happened to them, it's a real unfortunate shame, and hopefully we'll see them fight back at some other point. But Gindi and Woodstoth looking very, very close. I've just seen that Glack in 13th. Well, he's now in 11th, ahead of Martin Broyers from the Netherlands. There's quite a lot of position swapping. But Woodstoth has just set the fastest lap of 1 minute 43.563, so he's quicker by a tenth and a half ahead of Johnny Gindi, who came into this as the man on form, but by just 2/1000ths. As all third go, I think that was O'Keefe in third. Then that might have just got a little bit wide coming into the Moss S's. So yeah, but Gindi and Woodstoth, I mean, it's absolutely mano-y-mano up here as Gindi goes a bit wide coming out of that corner. I think hairpin here at Okayama reminds me very much of Zandvoort, Tarzan, turn 1.
Definitely does. Yeah, there are some similarities between here and Zandvoort, that's for sure. Especially this hairpin here too. At the end of the back straight, somebody locks up the tyres in a big way there going into the hairpin. It was definitely one of the top 3 for sure. And now we're back looking at this fight for a spot inside the top 5. It's Nicholas Szabo currently leading, currently trying to get past his namesake here in Baldy, and then it's Martin Renhofer in 6th, and then Maxime Batafoulier in 7th. And once again, Alex, what positions do you need to get in to advance through to the feature race, or what do these positions in these heat races do in terms of setting the grid for the feature race?
Well, the format will be that the top 18 from each race, Adam, will qualify for the grand final for this Simracing Challenge, and then we'll have another qualification session. So it doesn't matter if you get into the top 18 in each race, but you have another chance to qualify. So you'll have 10 minutes or 2 laps. So at least it resets the ledger, so everyone's put on the same sort of footing in each race. So it makes it a bit more in the sort of Olympic spirit of what we normally have at the Rotax Grand Finals, which are scheduled to take place at the Bahrain International Karting Circuit this coming November.
Oh, interesting indeed. Yeah, and the fight for 5th has almost exploded into action here, because it looks like that Baldy has now lost a few places, or at least he's trying to get some of them back anyway. Nicholas Szabo has managed to get through, and he's almost all over the place through the Moss S's. Watch out for Martin Renhofer, he's on the inside. There's an orange car darting about all over the place there. That looks like it might have been the Frenchman Batafoulier. Onto the back straight we go, and on the outside is Baldy Szabo trying to get some of those places back, but he's not going to be getting too much in terms of slipstream. And now we go down the back straight, trying to find out who's going to come out on top here. 3 wide in some places. Look at that. That's Baldy Szabo through the middle. Watch out for Batafoulier, maybe trying to go around the outside, or the brakes get locked up. Narrow profile tyres, these Skip Barber cars. Not too much grip on them at all. And Szabo up the inside. That is a fantastic move. And Batafoulier is continuing to battle it out with Martin Renhofer their way, Han. A fantastic scrap in these Skip Barber cars.
It does provide such good racing. It is a long train over here that extends from 3rd or 4th all the way down towards the 10th positions. So of course, Szabo having a great time leading this pack of many cars. They come upon these final corners. Of course, you don't discount these final few corners at Okayama, because this is where we see some of possibly the more daring overtakes happen.
Yeah, and you can see the entry to the pit lane on the inside of the penultimate corner, and there's a curb there, and if you take too much of it, you will get a slowdown penalty, and that will set you back. As Alex mentioned, the top 18 get through into the feature race. So right now on the bubble, it is the likes of Curtis Fung in 18th, and also the driver you was mentioned when we were going through the grid, Phil Hill. He is in 19th place, and it looks like these two are having a bit of a scrap. It is a bit of a cushion though, back to 19th place, 1.3 seconds between Fung and Hill. So Hill will have to set a few laps if he wants to catch up. And this is going to be a position that we'll be having to watch for quite a while, I think, Alex, because it could potentially be crucial in terms of ending your race meeting now or getting you through into the big feature race at the end of the afternoon.
Yeah, but I've seen that Phil Hill's a bit on the march here, Adam, because he's just taken nearly a second out of Curtis Fung on that last lap alone. And the gap is slowly decreasing. So Phil Hill, I think, has got a chance to get in there. But yeah, the battle up at the front, 5th place in with Sabo, it's getting a bit hairy going into the hairpin as there's a move up the inside. And I really, for people that know me from karting, as there's contact and we have got someone turned all the way around, and that has caused absolute pandemonium through the hairpin there, Adam.
Yeah, Nicholas Szabo. It looked like it was him that was around, and it means now that he is down 2. Just think he was able to get going at all. He has, and he's in 19th place. So that position we were talking about for Phil Hill, he's automatically gained a place, and it means that Szabo, if he's able to keep the car going, has got to have to work hard to try and get those places back, because he is 3.8 seconds away now. And there is Phil Hill in 18th place. As things stand, he is advancing through to the feature race. And here's Nicholas Szabo. Is the car pointing in a straight line? Well, it looks like it's still just about drivable, but he's going to have to close what is now a 4-second gap if he wants to get past Phil Hill. And there's positions changing at the front of the field. Reipel and Reinhofer and Szabo all exchanging places here. There you go. There's a battle for the fight for 4th now. And it is Reinhofer up the inside. So the 333 car has been quietly plucking away at the positions Weyhan, and he's now up into 4th place. But if he wants to get on the podium, he's got to close the 2.8 seconds to Kenneth O'Keefe. And judging from how close Szabo is, I think it's going to be a fight between these two for the rest of the races. There's more contact going on in the background.
So is Szabo going to think of a move as they enter the backstretch? This is a prime overtaking zone, a big one. So Reinhofer along the inside. Szabo, he does try to build as much pace as he can, sitting along the slipstream of Reinhofer as they come along the backstretch. It is going to be braking zone that both drivers go into. Will Szabo go for a dive down the inside? He does not try to do that. He's not close enough for that to work. So at this point, he is in P6. Now, of course, across the grid, there will be various flashpoints. Especially because, of course, the prime flashpoints would be up here in front for the podium position, but also for 18th position, because that is where the cutoff for the feature race will be.
Indeed, yeah, looks like more problems all up the inside there. That's a send and a half by Sova, Laszlo Sova, up 12 places since the start of the race. I believe him and Justin Allison, Alex, are our 2 biggest movers in the field so far. They've been carving their way through the field.
Well, Laszlo Zwaver from Hungary, he was actually our 3rd quickest qualifier out of everybody. So he's done a great job. I mean, his pace is respective of his merit coming through into the final stage here on the Rotax Simracing Challenge. But I've seen a couple of issues for Gregorio, and looks like our 61st qualifier, Valentin Klus, I think, have now had an issue. So that now puts them into the pits automatically, as there's a move up the inside, Glack going up the inside of Batafuye, I believe, through the first corner, and couldn't get it done. But just the amount of manoeuvres. I mean, Laszlo Zwaver's now up into P9. Reinhofer's trying to get up to the back of O'Keefe and Woods Toth, who's slightly quicker than Johnny Guindy at the moment, but they're all absolutely going for it, going through Williams into the Moss S's and then into the hairpin. But you can just see, for those on screen and watching at home, just how much of an incline there is going through the hairpin, going onto the main back straightaway. So the engines are going to be tested. The tyres are going to have a bit of resistance through both the camber and the uphill incline. So the drivers have really got to nail it coming out of the corner, as it's 2 wheels on the grass from, I think, Glack there in 9th place. Or nearly another coming together through the hairpin. So plenty of action still to go, as we're about 11.5 minutes through of this this first pre-final. Top 18 go through.
Oh, 3 wide nearly into the very tight hairpin section. This complex of corners is great if you're in cars like this, and in the Mazda MX-5s, cars that are used by some of the less experienced drivers when they come to iRacing. And look at this, not a quarter given between Brouwers and Stockfleth there, into the right-hander to complete the lap, and it's going to be Brouwers that comes out on top for now. Watch out for the Scandinavian Louis to come back potentially on this lap. We've got a few cars that have had to come into the pits for issues, as Alex was saying there. João de Gregorio coming in, Valentin Klus also. We also mentioned earlier Tom Matthias Stuka in, and Jurgensen, Charlie Bear, Eugene Britz, Hans Hofbauer, and Samuel Harrison and Tony Blasco all having to come into the pits in this one, which means that their chances of getting into the feature race have been severely limited. We did get a quick glimpse of the leaders a couple of moments ago. Weyhan, they've been pretty much stuck together since the start of the race. They've pulled away from the rest of them. They've got a handy 3.8 seconds in hand, and with no prizes being given out to the feature race later, they don't have to race each other too hard because they don't want to jeopardise their place of getting in there by having a crash.
Sure, in fact, of course, when you're leading a race, a lot of pressure is on you as well as the drivers around you to try to preserve the race lead for as long as possible. Guindy does have a huge gap ahead of everyone else. Guindy and Woodstuff, both of them are at least 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. This is Martin Brewers. He is in ninth and he is leading a pack of 4 to even 5 cars, and they are fighting hard for this position.
I guess one advantage of using these cars, Alex, is it's going to be a bit like kart racing because you're so close and tightly packed together that it's going to use those skills that you've learnt on the track in real life.
Well, for those wondering about Rotax itself, we host an event every single end of the year, the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals. And what it is, it's some people call it the Olympic Games of kart racing. It's basically you have to qualify for it. There is no, you don't pay an entry fee. You don't so like say, yeah, I'm going to pay my way. No, you get it on merit. And this is what the benefit of this competition is. It's a new initiative for us here at Rotax, and it's proving to be a good one because everyone gets put in the equal machinery, equal Rotax engines for parity, and that is why we've gone with Skip Barber at Okayama. It's providing that perfect match of promoting the driver skill above all others.
I'm really seeing it coming to the fore here. Some pretty audacious overtakes going on here. Are we going to see one in this tightly packed group here? This is, as Weyhan was saying, we've got the likes of Jerzy Glack, Martin Browers, and Nino Reipel, and Louis Stockfleff as well. Onto the back straight we go then. Here comes the man from Diach, which is made up of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Down the back straight we go. Watch out for potential late move by cars behind them. And here comes Reipel round the outside. Is he going to be able to get it done up the inside? We've seen drivers do this before. We saw one of the Azarbos do it earlier. Up the inside he goes. There was just enough of a gap. And it looks like he's going to get it done. Up the inside goes Jerzy Glack. But Browers is coming back at him. And he's going to try and get a move done around the outside. And Weyhan at this corner, there is just enough grip for you to get it done. And then, of course, the next corner is a right-hander. So I think he's going to be able to keep hold of the position there.
Because this sector is all about going back and forth. It's all about trying to get your car at the right place at the right time. So, of course, if you do get to do that, you will emerge from this final sector ahead of other drivers. So the positions have not exactly changed as much. I think those drivers, they did keep everything in line through those corners, but they have many more corners to go.
And we just got 10 minutes to go then in this first heat race of the afternoon. Of course, we have got one more to come after a very short break at the end of this one. Another 25-minute heat race. And then we have just under an hour's break before we come back and do the feature race just after 4 o'clock in Europe, so Central European time. So watch out for that. And thank you for joining us here on your Sunday afternoon here on Apex Racing TV. As I'm back here with Weyhan Chan, Alex Goldschmidt, and Frederick Nichtor on the cameras for you this afternoon. Looking here at the leaders then, and you can see the difference in lap times over the last couple of laps. Woodstoff in second place, Kenneth O'Keefe behind him, but this is the fight for the lead. Johnny Guindy last time around, Alex, was the fastest driver on the circuit, but by only 100th of a second. And as you can see by the amount of curbs they're using here, they are still pushing as much as they can, despite the fact that they are almost guaranteed, as long as they don't crash into each other, a spot in the main event themselves.
Definitely. I think just by looking at when I had to do the voiceover for Johnny Guindy's pole lap, 300, we had, like I say, 540 drivers entered. 319 went through the qualification stages, and you could just see how much input Johnny was putting in, not just behind the wheel from the cockpit cam, but then the chase cam really gave an indication, and they are not slowing down. I think what they're trying to do is just to get into that rhythm, get the breathing right, because for those people wondering, oh yeah, in a sim you just get behind a wheel and turn. No, you don't. It's the same thing. You are physically exerting yourself. The mental factors come in. So people like Johnny Gindi, Mikko Nasi, who's been a multi-time competitor at the grand finals, both as a photographer, a race mechanic, and actually as a competitor himself. You can just see that they are using whatever skills they have, and so a lot of drivers will put a lot of hours in. And there's just as much hard work that goes into professional esports as there is professional motorsport itself in the real world. So they are not giving up. They are going to do it with every single breath in their body until they literally collapse to get themselves in that potential spot that can see them win an opportunity to go to the grand finals. And it's not just any ticket. We have a new kart called the Project E20, 100% fully electrically propelled, and that person that wins this event will get that seat in Bahrain in November.
It's a massive prize, and we're looking forward to seeing who's going to win that. Oh, look at this! This is a replay of Baldy Szabo, and that was Nicholas Szabo. Oh my goodness me! Well, I think if you doubted the competitiveness between the two Szabos, I think it was the two Szabos anyway.
That is a rollover and a half there, Adam. I must admit, and someone definitely came off worse, and that was definitely Nicholas Szabo, not Szabo Baldissar, who's got a bit of his front nose missing now.
Oh dear. Oh well, what a shame for those two, because they were running at the front at the beginning of the race, and now one Szarbo's in the pits, one Szabo is been in the pits for quite a while, so that is a massive shame for them. Well, back with the leaders then, and as you've mentioned, Johnny Gindi is doing a fantastic job here, but that's really shaken up the order quite a bit. It means now that 18th place is currently Richard Basford, who has gained 13 places, so he started towards the rear in the qualifying. There he is, and there he is in action as well with his picture there in the go-kart, the Canadian, from for Team Highlighter. He is now in with a chance of getting the last spot into the feature race. Flavio Dantas as well, up in 17th. Anthony Milo in 16th place. Those guys are all going to advance. Drivers that are set to just miss out Weyhan are Justin Allison in 19th place and Alberto Palencia, the Spaniard, in 20th. And those two drivers are just on the fringes of getting in.
Especially at this part of the field, it is less than 5 minutes to go, and these drivers have everything to lose in the sense that, if you do miss out on P18 by just a little margin, you will lose that entry to the feature race, which of course these drivers are all extremely keen on.
And let me tell you that when you turn up to a go-karting event, it is taken incredibly seriously. And this is just from my examples of it. I went to the 24-hour karting race at Daytona and Milton Keynes last year, and that was no way at all like a World Championship or a British Championship event. But we turned up, we got our Sodi kart to compete, and the amount of awnings and data trackers and whatever you want the rest of the teams brought was exceptional. And obviously we struggled as amateurs ourselves, but yeah, it's incredibly competitive, the world of karting, and it's carrying over to this race we're seeing here. And Alex, we're currently looking at a fight between the likes of Glack, Fung, and Stockfleth. Tell you what, Fung's gained quite a lot of positions at the beginning of the race. We were talking about him just on the fringes of the top 18. He's now found himself up inside the top 10. He's worked away solidly during this one.
I think we see this as a good equaliser here, Adam, making the transfer to Simracing. That you'll see some drivers that will really, really shine, and Curtis Fung is one of them, the Canadian, running in seventh, and I think he's trying to hunt down Jerzy Glach from Poland. So that's the battle for P7. He's only like about just over a tenth as they're about to head into turn 5, and Fung pulls to the outside, and that's something that karters will do. And is he going to keep it pinned around the outside? He does. They go side by side through the halfway point, and it's still down the dip, heading into the left-hander at Revolver. And I think that's a great move from Curtis Fung. Great move from him. Glach still keeping it on the outside. Stockfleth getting stuck in here as well as the Swede. You've got Martin Broers not too far behind in 10th place, the Dutch driver. So still, even with about just under 3 minutes to go, Adam, it's there's plenty of good fights up and down the order. That's what you want from a race like this.
Well, I think back up the inside there goes Stockfleth. And I think he's just get it done. Through the dirt and the gravel there goes Glatch. The Swiss are getting forced out wide there in the closing stages. And I think the car and track combination has been vindicated once again. There's grip everywhere you look at this circuit in these Skip Barber cars. And now into turn 1 to start what could potentially be one of the final few laps of this opening heat race. It's Jersey Glatch. And then just in front of him it's Stockfleth in the red and white. And then it's Browers behind as well, who's keeping a watchful eye on proceedings here, hoping to benefit from any sort of mistake between the two in front of him. And Wayhan, it's kind of an advantage really when you're one of those guys like Browers is. He can just maybe lift off just a little bit and wait to see what's going to happen between the two in front of him, and then pounce if they start having a bit of a squabble in one of the corners.
Of course, they come to this part of the circuit, it is going to be up to them to kind of make that position shuffle along this part. This is Glash and Brewers, they go side by side through this stretch and breaking into the hairpin. Who's going to edge out? It would be that Brewers has edged out Glash to take that position. Of course, they come upon the left-handers, and so this is the final sector. This is where more of the overtaking can happen if you're able to push your car hard enough. Brewers in 9th, and he leads Glatch in 10th.
Yeah, good series of corners throughout this circuit, really, at Okayama. You've got it all. It's a good proving ground for anybody. You've got the S's at the beginning of the lap, the quick S's, then you've got the long back straight, test of top speed and whatnot, and then you've got this really tight and technical final sector of the circuit. And here is the fight for 18th then. This is now currently being held by Flavio Dantas, Richard Basford now in 17th place. 19th place, Justin Allison is 2 seconds away, and it looks like we are about to start the final lap of the race. So he's going to have to hope for some sort of incident in front of him if he is going to advance, I'd say, Alex, because 2 seconds to make up in a lap is going to be very tough indeed as we return to the leaders for the final few corners of this last lap.
Yeah, I've just noticed that Johnny Gindy and Woods Toth have just set exactly the same lap time, which is absolutely brilliant. It just shows how much I think what they've decided to do is that I can just tell by the way that they've been racing that Gindy and Woods Toth have been keeping consistent. They've not gone for anything audacious. And that is the key point. They want to get into the top 18, and then the gloves will be off for the final, because that's where everyone will put it on the line. Everyone will go for it. And that is very much characteristic within the karting world. You make sure you stay safe, you do the work you need to do, and then when the opportunity presents itself, as it will do at 3 o'clock British summertime, 4 p.m. Central European summertime here on the Rotax Sim Racing Challenge. A big thank you to the guys from Apex Racing TV for allowing us to host this fantastic event. So yeah, it's going to be all to play for, and I think we're going back to a replay here, Adam.
Oh no, well it looks like, was that was Phil Hill, and then afterwards was collision with Nathan Brito. So I think Justin Allison will get in the top 18, and the race victor from the first race of the day, the first heat race, is Johnny Gindy from Mexico. He led every single lap. Patrick Woodstoff pushed him all the way in second, even setting identical laps at the start of the final lap, as Alex was mentioning there. It's a fight then, fight for 13th, or fight for 12th I should say. It is going to be Dragos Avasil QT coming across the line there. There's Justin Allison though, and I believe if I'm correct, yes I am, it's going to be he that advances, 17th place, and it looks like Alberto Palencia is going to advance as well on the final lap. He's going to get 18th place. This is all down to the demise of what looks like Nathan Brito in that first corner collision at the start of the last lap, Wayhan. So a lot of people have been able to gain positions, and for the likes of Allison and Palencia, they've been able to advance into the final race of the day later on.
Sure, I think, yeah, it was just a matter of an untimely incident that led to some drivers missing out on the cutoff of P18, and that handed the entry to some of the other drivers who were fortunate enough to avoid those incidents.
And for them, Alex, it's going to be pretty painful. They'd made it through the 24 of the 25 minutes, and then they get involved in an incident that may or may not have been their fault, and then that's their afternoon ended.
Yeah, it's kind this is how draconian the cutting phase, so like the draft phase, let's say, has been. You know, when you're having to cut people, And to have 540 drop down to 319 in qualifying, then you drop it down at 72. We've now got another 36 drivers, half of which will go through the very same pain in a few moments' time. But yeah, they'll have just thought, Phil Hill, I'm sure, will be absolutely gutted after that one.
Definitely. And here's the final results then from the first heat race of the day. Not too long to wait until we are going to get set for the second one. I think we've got about, I'd say, just under 10 minutes. Johnny Gindy wins. Patrick Woodstoff in second. Kenneth O'Keefe completes the podium. Martin Renhofer in fourth. Laszlo Sofa, the Hungarian, in fifth. And then sixth, Maxime Batafulier. Seventh, Curtis Fung. Eighth for Louis Stockfleth, the Swede. And then the top 10 completed by Martin Broers and Jerzy Glatsch, the Swiss. Dragos Vasil Kusi in 11th. 12th for Nino Reipel. And then Anthony Milo in 13th. Richard Basford, 14th. Dmitry Kofanov in 15th place. Flavio Dantas in 16th place in the top 18. The top 18 that will advance, remember, completed by Justin Allison and the Spaniard Alberto Palencia. 19th place for Alexandro Reinlau in 19th place, and then Marcus Lucio in 20th. Tony Blasco in 21st. There's Phil Hill down in 22nd place. He was one lap away from advancing before the collision at turn 1. Then Samuel Harrison, Adilson Jr. in 24th. Hans Hofbauer in 25th place. Eugene Britz 26th. Nathan Brito in 27th place. And then a couple of laps down now, the likes of Charles Bear in 28th. 29th for Benjamin Jurgensen. Tamateus Stuka in 30th. And then Valentin Klus 31st. Baldy Zarbo in 32nd. Raphael Renhofer in 33rd. So while one Renhofer was up in 4th, the other was down in 33rd place. There's Nicholas Zarbo in 34th place, and at the back, João de Gregorio. So from 18th down, all of their afternoons are over. They're not going to be in the final feature race. And as for the top 18, their work is done for now. We'll see them later on. But this is now time for us to take a short break, change sessions, and we'll be back in a couple of moments where we'll be getting set for the second heat race of the day. So don't go anywhere. Me, Weihan, and Alex, and Frederick Nichtel on the cameras will all be back in a few moments here on Apex Racing TV in the Rotax Simracing Challenge. just like that, we're back here on Apex Racing TV for the second heat race of the afternoon from here in sunny Okayama, Japan. The Rotax Sim Racing Challenge here with Adam Bath in the commentary box, along with Wei Han Chan and Alex Goldschmidt and Frederick Nicktill on the cameras. The lone qualifying session is just getting underway in the second heat race, a 10-minute session where drivers get to set 2 qualifying laps. And we're currently looking here at Lucas Thompson, who's coming onto the front straight to start his flying lap. And Alex, fill us in on some of the drivers that we are set to see here in the second heat race. Some more big names to watch out for.
Yes, quite a few actually. Lucas Thompson from Germany being one of them. He's one of the he's one of the young competitors from my second home nationality, Germany. With Frederick and I exchanging a brief conversation in German before we went live on air earlier on today. So Lucas Thompson, Matthew Higgins, have to watch out from the sole Belgian qualifier, 2-time DD2 champion from the B&L karting series, Zander Schiblak. He qualified in the top 45, 44th, ahead of Martin Breuers, who we saw. And I must be completely honest here, Adam. He only did a 1 minute 43.358, and that wasn't too far off of Johnny Gindy's pole position time in the qualifying stages.
Sounds pretty ominous then. We'll have to wait and see what time he can set in qualifying. One driver, Wei Han, I know your eyes were drawn to when we saw the entry list for the second heat race was Mikko Nassi. Have you got your eye on him for this one?
Yeah, well, I think because Mikko Nassi is in fact based in Singapore at this point in time, he is a very well-known motorsports figure within the local communities in Southeast Asia, in fact Singapore, Malaysia, and it's just really, really fantastic to see him racing here tonight.
Well, there he is, weaving from side to side on his what looks like potentially his out lap. I'm not too sure. If you joined our conversation at the beginning of the show a while ago, when I mentioned that Matt Higgins is in this one, famous name there, and the times are starting to come in, and it looks like Thompson has gone quickest. He's immediately trumped by De Oliveira, and then the times are continuing to come in now. Martina Lackner puts in a 1:44.03. Are the drivers going to go any quicker than that? Here is Higgins. He's coming through the final few corners now. It looks like they might just be getting the tyres still up to temperature on this first flying lap, and then going for it on the second one. You do get 2 flying laps around here. Just a reminder as well, if you do put 2 wheels off the circuit at any point on your qualifying lap, then it's immediately invalidated. And if you do that twice, of course, you'll be starting at the back of the field. Here comes Higgins over the line. He does a 1:46.2, but as we've been saying, Alex, looks like the drivers might just be getting themselves set for the second of the flying laps, because that's when the tyres might just finally be up to temperature, as Philip Hammer, he puts in a 1:43.8 to go to the top.
Petrovic has just gone 7th, but that's a pretty quick lap there. Schiblak is just behind Jan Schwitter from Switzerland, who qualified 10th out of the top 72. So that's Belgium and Switzerland respectively. Lucas Thompson just outside. Then I think you've also got Gilks from Canada, just rounding out the top 10. Robert De Haan from the Netherlands, I think, will be in this one as well. Junior Rotax Grand Finals champion from 2018 in Brazil. So yeah, I think and he's just popped up into 19th position ahead of Eder King from Germany. And it looks like Linus Henson has actually gone into pit lane, currently 17th. So, yeah, Adam, it's looking very interesting because the times are changing all the while as Matt Higgins is in P14 ahead of Jan Schwitter.
And here come the second lap time. Schwitter up to P1 with a 1:43.3. Is anybody going to better that? Robert De Haan goes into third place with a 1:43.7. Here is Max Palmer. He's got a Rebel livery, at least on my screen. He's coming into the final corner now. Is he going to be able to improve from his 14th spot on the grid? It's currently Jan Schwitter. No, Diego Francisco goes top of the qualifying order, 1:42.974. That's one of the quickest laps we've seen all day. Max Palmer over the line. He goes 7th for a 43.7. And as things stand, it's Diogo Francisco that has a 0.4 of a second advantage over Jan Schwitter. Here is Teddy Sin. He does not improve. Hammer does, though. Philip Hammer does improve, but it's not enough to go higher than fourth, a 1:43.5. And I think we're just now waiting for the rest of the cars to come across the line. But Wei Han, 1:42.97 by Diego Francisco. That is a mighty lap as we're looking here at Miguel Lopez coming through the final corner now.
Sure, it is a blistering lap time. Of course, he is at this point perhaps the only driver to have touched 142 territory. The rest of the drivers are at least 0.3 of a second behind Diogo Francisco.
We were talking about the times a moment ago, Alex. I don't think we were anticipating such a quick time by Diogo there. That is the gauntlet very much thrown down by him before we even started the race.
I'm just waiting for Miko to come through and see what he does, because I see quite a, I mean, Benny Simonson running up in P5 ahead of Hammer, Guilherme de Oliveira, a senior Rotax driver I know very well. He was actually last year's Portuguese Rotax champion. Nassi goes second, just under two tenths off of Diogo Francisco. Brilliant job by Nick Nassi to put himself on the front row.
Well, there we go. I think we've got a race on our hands now for the second heat race of the day. In terms of the current provisional positions for advancing into the feature race, of course, we've still got a race to go. But in 18th place, Gabriel Solomon, the Dane. Tyler McEwen's just outside the top 18. He's in 19th place. And then Lucas Thompson in 20th. They're the names on your screen for you. Xander Prizy Balak in 17th place. And then in 16th, just a couple of hundredths ahead of him, Dorian Chargonja in 16th place. So watch out for them potentially to gain some places as the race goes on. We have got 36 cars registered for this second heat race, 25 minutes in length. And then after that's finished, we'll speak to some of the drivers. Late lap there by Daniel Daum, who goes in with 9th place, 1:43.65. So that shuffles the order back a little bit more. And we're about 90 seconds away from getting down to the grid. And yeah, after this second heat race is finished, we'll have just under an hour break, and then we'll have another qualifying session to set the grid for the 25-minute feature race. One has already been done, and it was won by Guindy, the Mexican, and the top 18 in there have already booked their place in the final feature race of the afternoon. Now it's the turn of this heat now, the second heat of the day, to get ready to go for another 25 minutes. And Miko Nassi, Wei Han, he's gone straight in there with a time just 1/10 of a second slower than Diogo Francisco. And I wonder if we'll be seeing a similar fight to what we saw in the first heat between Guindy and the Canadian in second place. It's going to be a pretty intriguing race ahead if the times are anything to go by.
Oh yes, it sure has. Now, of course, if we do remember the previous race, the drivers in the top two, they had a focus on keeping consistent pace, as Alex had mentioned earlier on. It was all about them trying to keep conservative and maintain their lead ahead of everyone, not thinking of making any moves that might jeopardize their advantage ahead of the rest of the field. These the drivers for, or rather, Miko and Diogo, they could take that option, which might allow them to maintain the lead ahead of everyone. But of course, you have to have a certain pace in order to pull that kind of move off.
We'll see if they have that in the race, because the 10-minute session is over, and now it's time to get down to the grid. It is a mild afternoon, partly cloudy in Okayama, Japan. Early morning conditions, it looks like, by the sounds of those. By the sound of the clock anyway, and the car's starting to grid for you now. So on the pole position, Alex, it is Diogo Francisco. Miko Nassi just under 0.2 of a second away, and the top 12 looks a pretty interesting one, as we saw in the first heat as well. Everybody's separated by not too much at all.
Yeah, you've got Jan Schwitter on P4 outside of the second row, Guilherme de Oliveira. Funny enough, I've just actually had a message from David Higgins, Matt's dad, saying he took too much curve, so his lap didn't count.
Yeah.
So it can show. And I said, well, I've just said to him, he's got some work to do. Robert DeHaan down in 12th, so running out the top 6 rows. Pretty close there, 0.734 between the top 12. I think the top 20 is separated by just under a second. So it's looking to be a very interesting grid, but we'll see who manages to side their way through the field on this one, Adam.
Definitely. Really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here. Matt Higgins, you're right, he is starting down in 34th place. A lot of work for him to do, but as we saw in the first heat, it can be done. Quite a lot of the drivers that managed to get their way into the final feature race of the day, they started towards the rear, managed to pick the places off one by one, and some got in right at the death. in the final few corners after a few cars crashed out. But there is our pole sitter, Diego Francisco, on the pole. Mikko Nassi in second, and then Florian Garcia, Jan Schwitter, and Adrian Cusack in 5th place. That is the top 5. Once all the cars are in position, which it looks like they nearly are, we're just waiting for Teddy Sin to appear on the grid and Dirk Henson, and then we'll be all set to go. Teddy Sin set to start in P8, but he's got just a few seconds to get in. Otherwise, he will be starting from the pit lane. He's there now, and we're getting set to go. Watch for the lights, and when they go out, we'll be getting set for 25 minutes of action here in the Rotax Simracing Challenge. The lights are out and we're away. It's a good start by Francisco. In fact, it's going to be a brilliant start from Francisco because he's already clear of Mikko Nassi going into the first corner. There's already a few position changes going on in the midfield, that's for sure, as they go into the first corner. They're all running wide, cold tyres and cold brakes in the early stages, but it's Francisco that leads. Nassi second, Garcia in third, Schwitter fourth, Benny Simonson fifth, he's already up 1 place. Adrian Cusack down to 6th, then it's Teddy Sin, Philip Hammer, and then Daniel Daum and De Oliveira completing the top 10. It looks like we had a much cleaner start than what we saw in the first heat, Alex. Not too many cars going off in the first corner.
No, not at all, Adam, but they are all swarming all over each other. There's like a set of beeves around a hive trying to get to the queen. But yeah, Guilherme de Oliveira running out the top 10. They're separated by just 2.7 seconds as they've headed their way down to the hairpin for the first time of asking, but just the absolute amount of use of slipstream. Very reminiscent of karting as well, because you haven't got much aerodynamics on this Skip Barber Formula 2000s. As Mikko Nassi goes up the inside past Chagona for the lead on the very first lap. Nice work by the Finnish driver, based out of Singapore, as Wei Han mentioned earlier. So yeah, there's positions changing all over the way of the field, and it looks like Zander Shiblak might be a bit further down. But let's go back to a replay here, Adam.
Oh yeah, well that's a collision between Zander Prizibalek and also what looked like Marcel Darvasi, I think. Those two drivers losing positions hand over fist. They're down the order now to 34th and 35th, but it is Nassi that leads Weihan, move up the inside at the end of the back straight, and they are pushing right to the limit as they go, putting 2 wheels into the dirt on the exit of the final corner. And Francisco, it looks like he wants that lead back.
Sure, Francisco did try to look along the inside, but of course with these Skip Barbers, you can't afford to use the runoffs for just a little bit in order to get the most out of these cars. It's all about making full use of the width of the track in order to get the best racing line. Nassi leads Francisco by a fair bit, and as we have a look at the replay of a driver along the rear end of the grid, this was probably an incident.
Oh my goodness me. Well that's, oh no, and he gets collected by a few others as well. That is Santiago Cabrera, and he has now had to return to the pits. So we've got 3 cars out already. Dorian Chargonja, then it's Colin Suti, the Aussie, and then Santiago Cabrera. Both of them out of the race within the completion of the first lap. But here is Nassi versus Francisco at it again down the back straight. They have got Florian Garcia right behind, and then it's Jan Schwitter 4th and Benny Simonson in 5th. The top 5 all still together. A bit different to what we saw in the first race where the top 2 vanished off into the distance. But we are only 2 minutes into this one, and a lot of racing still to go as bits of debris fly all over the place in the midfield, and one driver's dropping down the order. It looks like Martina Lackner is dropping down the order there, down to 25th place now. That's a massive shame. I had qualified quite well, but into the complex of corners we go. And there is Lucas Thompson, who is currently, Alex, in the fight for the spot to be in the top 18. And it looks like after the first lap and a half, the positions have changed quite a lot in that area of the field. Matt Higgins, the driver you mentioned after qualifying, had hit a curb and hadn't been able to set a time. He's up 12 places already. He's up to 22nd and only 4 places away from getting in.
Well, he managed to avoid the accident that involved Argentina's Santiago Cabrera. So he was in the right place on the inside line and had enough room to move. So I think David said to Matt in his ear, Alex said, you've got to do it. You've got a lot of work to do. And that's probably spurred him on as one of the drivers now comes out of the pit lane here at Okayama and nearly comes into oncoming traffic. And that's right at the bottom part of the field. So that's even close when you manage to get out of there. But it's, as you said, this is a completely different category of race. We've got Nassi, Francisco battling away tooth and nail, Garcia, Schwitter, Simonson, Sujac, Teddy Sin, Daniel Dam, Guilherme de Oliveira, Philip Hammer, and Jose Soria rounding out the top 11 positions. And Robert De Haan has also made some headway, and he's only 3/10 off of Soria down in 12th.
And Diego Francisco leads Weyhan back up the inside into the hairpin.
Would have retaken the lead, but it would also look like Florian Garcia might think of taking third from Nasi. So of course this is a big battle going on amongst the top five. It is very much different from the race we did cover just moments ago. So of course these drivers have opted for the competitive option to shake everything up from the front of the grid all through the rest of the field.
And Weyhan, it looks like that. It looks like while you defend the inside line in some of these corners, that's not enough, because it looks like there's plenty of grip on the outside for somebody to get by you around the outside in some of these corners.
Sure, there would be specific corners where you can make use of more than one line. You know, it's all about trying to get the line of least resistance where you can make use of as much momentum as possible, and it's very much the case at a track like this and with a car like this.
Fourth lap now we start. Diego Francisco, fastest lap of the race, a 43.1. Remarkably, that is only a couple of tenths away from the time he set in qualifying. So a blistering pace by Francisco. There's loads of changes going on in the top 18. I wonder if there's been some sort of crash. Petrovic has gone off. Aaron Engel also went off the circuit at some point. Tyler McEwen's only just coming back onto the circuit. He was around the top 18 as well. There is Mehdi El Fathi in 21st place. And he has got a fantastic scrap going on in front of him between the likes of Matt Higgins, who's in 20th place now. Then it's Verdeking in 19th and Brent Gilks in 18th place. He's now the car on the bubble. And 17th is Dirk Henson, who's already gained 19 places to get into the crucial top 18. As there goes Teddy Sin. He's battling away with De Oliveira in 8th place, 7th and 8th place. And just looking at that timing screen on the left-hand side, Alex, it's just a sea of green and red. The position changes going on left, right and centre. And this is the fight we're looking at now. For 18th place, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars all fighting over the same bit of track here.
Yeah, it is just a myriad of colour. Red to green, positional changes left, right and centre, up and down like a yo-yo. Lucas Thompson now is in the he's in the danger zone at the minute. Matt Higgins is only a couple of places behind in P20, and he could try and go up the inside of Vedeking. You've got Mehdi El Fati, Eric Kuhn there as well. So they're all swapping positions. This is a real great dogfight by what I count at least 9 cars. And that is absolutely incredible. As we go on board with Dennis Vedeking in 19th, just behind Lucas Thompson. From Germany. Matt Higgins will be on the back bumper of the number 99 at the moment as they come down the straightaway, and they're all trying to break the toe here. This is the key important thing. If you get the slipstream down the main or the back straightaway, you've got a real chance of throwing it up the inside into the corner, as Thompson's trying to go for a move, possibly up the inside of either Brent Gilks or Aaron Engel, and this is absolutely brilliant. Matt Higgins is in the position where he needs to be, and I know very well as someone runs wide going through the exit of Williams, oh my goodness, and loses 4 positions in the process. That might have been Palm, I think, that lost that. As Matt Higgins is definitely now in the he's into P17, as he's going to try and close up on both Thompson and Gilks as they come through Atwood Curve, up the hill, down along the back straight. And it's side by side between, and it's changing all the time, Ed. And this is absolutely mesmerising. It's nearly 4 wide going into the hairpin. Higgins nearly threw it up the inside. My goodness me. Heart in the mouth moment as someone runs wide. That could be Gilks maybe, but not too sure. Higgins loses a couple of places. Nearly a bit of wheel interlocking there, but he kept it neat and tidy, did Matthew Higgins.
Well, I think we saw different disciplines of racing all in action there. We saw the 2x2 down the back straight. It was almost like NASCAR for a brief moment. Then it turned into, I don't know, Formula Ford racing or something between all those guys. But the long story short of all of this is it's Lucas Thompson is now at the front of this massive train. Then it's Matt Higgins up to 16th place. It took 8 minutes for him to get from the back to qualification for the feature race as things stands. Then it's Brent Gilks, then it's Dennis Verdeking, and then it's Mehdi El Fafi, the South African, in 19th place. Well, Weyhan, I don't think we've seen much racing like that on Apex Racing TV in 2020, and remarkably, all of them are still on the track, and it looks like still in one piece after all that.
Certainly, these drivers, they keep it so well together. No incidents, no altercations through that specific flashpoint. And we're back with the race leader. Race leader is still Mikonasi at this point. Francisco is in second. And of course, they are going side by side along this backstretch. It is going to be Francisco who will edge out Nasi through the braking zone of this hairpin. He takes the advantage through the hairpin and he retakes the race lead. Now, is Garcia going to go for the second position, or will Schwitter also want to have a piece of this pie as they enter this prime section where overtaking is all that makes this work?
Well, we're just over 1/3 of the way through the second heat race of the afternoon. Up the inside goes Garcia. You mentioned it could potentially be an overtaking spot here, Weihan, and it looks like it might just work. No, Nasty back up the inside, parks the car on the apex, but then runs wide on the exit. Nearly puts two wheels into the dirt. In fact, he does. This penultimate corner here is not the best overtaking opportunity, but Nasty gives him the room and almost gets collected by the two cars behind him in Simonson and Schwitter. And he's still offline now as he nearly puts two wheels into the dirt going through the final corner. Well, that's switched positions around a bit. It's now Florian Garcia up to P2, Mikko Nassi in third place, a final spot on the podium as Francisco puts in a lap quicker than his qualifying lap. Then it's Jan Schwitter after Simonson, and then Teddy Sin in sixth place. But as you can see, Sin is in a fight of his own with Adrian Kusaj there. There you go, 6th and 7th place. And Francisco, Alex, he's just getting quicker and quicker as he goes along here. He's set a fastest lap that's, I believe, quicker than his time in qualifying now. He's starting to pull away a little bit now. The gap's up to 1.3 seconds.
That's an incredibly great gap in what's been an incredibly close race. But Adam, I've really been noticing that look at the gaps between 15th and 20th. From Lucas Thompson all the way down to Aaron Engel. It's around about 2.2 seconds as we go to the battle now. And it's absolutely crazy how these drivers have really kept their primal urges of wanting to do a Danny Rick and lick the stamp and send it. They're having to keep it, as I said, when we were talking about Johnny Gindy and Patrick Woods-Toth in the first race, they've got to keep it on the black stuff. We don't want Matt Higgins to do rallying like his dad does, because otherwise that will really, really change things dramatically. But yeah, I mean, just how they're keeping their composure. I think it's just it's like with karting. You build up your momentum, you build up the confidence, you plan, you strategize, and then you decide, right, where am I going to make the move? And I'm looking at the times between Lucas Thompson and Matt Higgins. They're about 3.5 tenths of a second adrift of each other. Probably make that 4 tenths at the highest. And now Higgins is now starting to build that momentum swing in his favour. And he's not too far behind Lucas Thompson in the battle for 15th position. And just behind them was 16th as Lena, I think that's Dirk Henson. I think that's a typo. I think that's Linus Henson, fellow German compatriot to Lucas Thompson. As Brent Gilks isn't too far away. Neither is Vedeking or El Fati in the battle for what is 16th. It looks like Linus Henson is actually out. So there's been an issue there for the German.
Yeah, that's a shame for Henson. But it does mean that some of these guys are now up a position. So now it's Gilks into 18th place. It's Verder King, who is now just 2 tenths of a second away from the spot in the top 18. We're now halfway through this second race of the afternoon. One more to come after this. We'll have just under an hour's break between the completion of race 2 and the start of race 3. And there was a bit of contact there in the fight for 18th. But look at this. This is the fight between Benny Simonson and Florian No, it's not between Florian Garcia. It is... In fact, it is Florian Garcia. Yeah, 2 tenths of a second in front of us. Francisco is checked out. He is now 1.9 seconds clear of these guys, and he's leaving everybody else to fight over second position. Garcia in second in the black car, then it's Simonson third, Mikko Nassi in fourth, then it's Jan Schwitter, Teddy Sin sixth, and Daniel Daum in 7th place. And look at the difference in lap times there, Weihan. Lap 6 and lap 7 in particular, he was able to gain the best part of 1.1 seconds just in the last 2 laps was Diogo Francisco.
It's so surprising that he is able to even clock a much faster, a relatively faster lap time compared to his qualifying time. This is really, really stellar performance by Francisco. Of course, Benny Simonson, he is in third. He began from 6th, so a 2-position climb from where he started from. So of course, at this time, at this moment, Francisco does have a gap of 1.73 seconds ahead of P2 and beyond. So he is trying to build a little bit of that margin ahead of himself. If he is able to maintain this, he could be in quite a comfortable position to carry his pace throughout the race.
Lucas Thompson and Mehdi Al Farfi look like they've had an incident because they're now out. So I don't know what happened to Lucas Thompson, who was, of course, leading that train in terms of the fight for 18th place. And I think this replay might tell us. This is going into the back section of the circuit. This is, of course, the fight for 18th, which we were looking at earlier. Oh, bumper to bumper, all concertinaed up, and one car gets stuck in there. That was 77. That was Mehdi Al Farfi, and that is why they have both had to come into the pits. Massive shame for those two, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it looked like the car behind Lucas Thompson. It might have been Gilks that went up at the. I think they were coming up the hill. I think that might have been going through into turn 9, and or possibly even outward curve. But yeah, Thompson gets turned around, and El Farthi's got nowhere to go and gets collected. An unwilling bystander was Mehdi. So a shame for those two, but it means that Matt Higgins now is up. Well, Matt Higgins got the move cleanly done, so he planned it. He had it all planned. So his strategy is working. He's up from P34 to P15, and he's about 6.8 seconds behind Gerardo Ramos in 14th. So I think he's done more than enough. He's just got to keep it on the black stuff for the next 9 minutes or so.
Yeah, it is all in his hands now. Less than 10 minutes to go in the second heat race of the afternoon here in the Rotax Simracing Challenge on Apex Racing TV. After this heat race, we'll have just under an hour's break, and then we will be back for the feature race. The main event of the day just happening after 3 o'clock British Summer Time, 4 o'clock Central European Time. And I'm here with Alex Goldschmidt, Wei Han Shan, and Frederick Nixall controlling all the cameras for you here at the Okayama circuit. And we've got a nice free-car scrap here for the fight to get to stay inside the top 18. You've got Eric Kuhn here in 18th, and Dennis Verdeking in 17th, 16th Gabriel Salomon in the bright green car, and it looks like positions are changing left, right and centre in the fight for third place too. So plenty going on wherever you look in the field. And 19th, on the fringes of the top 20, is Martina Lackner, who was in issues earlier, but it looks like they're pretty close to getting back in. Solomon. Well, if these two start coming together, Wayham, they're going to hand Martina 18th place on a plate here, because all these guys need to do is just stay on the island, and they'll be in the feature race. But it looks like that's not enough for them.
Of course, we cannot discount that Martina Lackner is in 19th, and Lackner would very much like to be part of this battle pack, so it could still be anyone's game at this point. It is a huge flashpoint here at P18, currently held by Eric Kuhn, and it's all about trying to keep everything on all fours, keeping everything consistent, as what Alex just mentioned, and they make it through the final corner. Is all about maintaining the pace, being smart about whatever moves that you might decide to make.
Well, time is starting to run out. 17 minutes on the board, and here is the fight for second place. It's now Garcia in second, then it's Schwitter in third, Simonson fourth, and Mikko Nassi has now dropped down to fifth place. So that second spot in qualifying has now materialised into a fifth spot in the race. But of course, it doesn't matter, because all he's got to do is finish inside the top 18, and he is there. And it's not as if these race results have any determination in terms of qualifying for the feature race. There will be another qualifying session, which will help many of these drivers out. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen when Diego Francisco, the current race leader and would-be race winner, if he's able to stay in control for the final 7.5 minutes or so. Francisco versus Guindy, the Mexican that won the first heat race of the afternoon. That is going to be a qualifying session and a half when it gets underway in just over an hour. Fight here. This is 17th and 18th going at it. This is Kuhn and Dennis Verdeking. A lot of curb taken on the inside there. You need to be careful, Dennis. You don't want to pick up a slowdown penalty, because look how close Martina Lackner is now. And with not just over 5 minutes left, Alex, this is what we want. This is a fantastic scrap going on for 18th place. And Martina's looking up the inside here going into the complex.
Well, Werder nearly did a Matthias Ekstrom back in Hockenheim a couple of years ago when Eki threw it up the inside of Gary Paffett and Lackner's going for it. Thinks she's got it because Werder actually went wide. So Martina Lackner now up into the cut-off point as Robert Hahn gets past. I think I've just seen that Benny Simonson has ended up in the pit lane.
Oh
He
wow!
was running in the top 10. So Robert De Haan now goes up into 8th ahead of Philip Hammer. So, Lackner's now in the spot that the driver needs. And someone's coming out of the pits here, joining in front of other traffic. And that's gone in right into, I think, just behind, roundabout where Vedder and Engel are. So that particular driver has come out at probably the wrong point between two drivers that are trying to catch up with Martina Lackner, and the driver goes wide coming into the Moss S's.
And that's Benny Simonson. He's been in the pits for 33 seconds, stopped the car, got going again, and he's back out in 18th place. So I'm not too sure what's happened. Maybe he had to serve a stop and go penalty. I don't know, but he's back out on the circuit and he's in 18th place. And and by my reckoning, that means he'll still be in with a shout of getting in with a feature race up the inside there. That's Gabriel Salomon and Eric Kuhn going at it for 16th and 17th place. Martina Lackner just trying to keep her distance. She doesn't want to get involved in this wreck because then that means that she too could potentially be out of being in the final race as there's contact in the back. That's it's not Benny Simonson, that's Dennis Verdeking and Aaron Engel. These two now fighting over 19th and 20th place going into the complex. This does not look like it's got the hallmarks of ending totally well. Oh, and he's disappeared. And he's appeared again. That's 29. That's that's 99. It's Dennis Verdeking looking up the inside. It's exceptionally difficult to race against a car that you don't know whereabouts they are. But of course, these guys coming from karting backgrounds, they've got good spatial awareness, and they're going to go side by side down the front straight here, Weyhan. And watch out for the guy in the middle. Who is that trying to get involved? Is it Brent Gilks? I'm not too sure actually. It might be a lapped car actually going into the first corner.
It was such a great scrap for that position. Even though they have just fallen outside the 18th cutoff, it was still a great battling that did take place. Lackner leads this section. She is in 17th and she leads. Alright, she does not lead this battle pack. It is led by Solomon at this point. As we just said, that Solomon taking a little bit of a wide line, and this will give Kuhn the inside line. This is 3 abreast at this time. It could be anyone's race at this point. We ride on board Lackner as she is going alongside Simonson and Kuhn. So of course it's all about getting the right position to get a best entry into this right hairpin.
Indeed, yeah. Looks like she will get it. So up to 16th place goes Martina. This pack now doesn't have to worry about too much falling into 19th place because they have got a 2.4 second buffer as long as they all stay on the road. And this is, you're looking at here, 15th down to 18th. It's Solomon in the green and black car. Then it's Kuhn, Lackner after that. Then it's Kuhn, and then it's Simonson up the inside. And, well, I think Kuhn had to just about take a wide line because he saw that multicoloured car, Simonson, approaching at a great rate of knots. And the one thing these guys do not want to do is collide on the final lap. Fastest lap of the race on the previous lap by Francisco. He's done a 42.5 on this one, and this is a fantastic scrap going on for a spot in the top 5. It is Daniel Down that leads this, then it is De Oliveira in 6th, and then Teddy Sin in 7th. And Alex, once again, this is a group that are comfortably inside the top 18, but they're still very, very close in the fight for a top 5 spot as well, with I'd say 2 laps to go, including the one we're on now.
Yeah, including the guy in the middle, Guilherme de Oliveira. Know him and his dad, Paulo de Oliveira, who's watching at home whilst his boy's in the sim rig. But an interesting statistic, Adam. Diego Francisco came to within 4 1,000ths of Johnny Guindy's qualification stage time. He did a 1 minute 42.487 not on this lap. He did a 42.1511.
It's Eric Kuhn. He's crashed on the back straight and he's out.
No!
He's got severe damage, and
he got turned around by Benny Simonson. Simonson was in the back of him.
Oh well, here is the replay. It's on your screen now, and Simonson at this moment in time is having to worry about Martina Lackner, and then Oh, well, it looks like Kuhn moves across and then he just gets upended and turned around by Simonson. And with 2 laps to go, that is going to be a heartbreaker for Eric Kuhn. He's down in 22nd place, and it'll be a minor miracle, Weihan, if he's going to be in the top 18 now with so little time left of this one.
Yeah, we do in fact have less than a minute to go, so this could be white flag at this point. Diogo Francisco, he should lead the final lap of this race. He has built himself such a huge gap ahead of the rest of the field. 4 seconds, more than 4 seconds. So this is quite a safe margin that if he can keep up through this lap, he will be in safe hands. This is Max Palmer. He is in 10th, and he is under a lot of pressure from Adrian Susac.
Yeah, just 0.2 of a second apart. Alex, I think if that replay was anything to show us, bump drafting doesn't work in these Skip Barber cars, it looks like.
Yeah, especially if you get that close. I think as Benny Simonson found out, and poor old Eric Kuhn on the receiving end of. I think it was probably an incident they both couldn't avoid. Because as you said, Simonson was battling side by side alongside Martina Lagner, going down the back straightaway. So it's 1 of one and 500 of the other. I think it's more of a racing incident, from my honest opinion. But as Jan Schwitter has been really, he's got past Florian Garcia for second position. So Jan Schwitter qualified P10 in the initial 3 days of qualification for the Rotax Simracing Challenge on the final lap, or pretty much gets past Florian Garcia, which I don't think Garcia saw coming. Maybe. Well,
it's a fight to the line for those guys, but it's a comfortable victory here for Diogo Francisco. He had to worry about Mikko Nassi in the early going, but after that he was able to pull away and set fastest lap after fastest lap. Some unbelievable times, and even on the final lap he does a 42.5 to win the second heat race of the day here at Okayama. Jan Schwitter second. It's going to be a drag race between those guys over the line. I think that was Robert Dehaan and Teddy Sin, just 700ths of a second between them. Here comes Adrian Kusaj over the line in 11th, and here's the fight for 16th and 17th. It is going to be Gabriel Solomon, who comes home in 15th place. Martina Lachner 16th. Benny Simonson will come home in 17th place and get in. And it's going to be Dennis Verde King who gets into the final race of the day, finishing in P18. Well, Weihan, that was a breathless second race. A few big collisions that had quite an impact in terms of who got in the top 18, but we finally have our field set for the feature race that's going to be coming up in a moment's time.
Oh, we sure do. I think we could agree that perhaps the battles here, they were a little bit more spread out. I think the battles were more consistent as opposed to the previous race where it was more intense, but they were kind of at different sections of the field.
And Alex, you mentioned the lap times that Diogo Francisco's been setting. I think we could be in for a qualifying session of great proportions between he and Guindy when we get there in just under an hour.
I think Johnny Guindy's watching his back very, very closely. I think he's been watching this race like a hawk because, first of all, Mikko Nassi, then you've got Diogo Francisco, then you've got a few Rotax racers in the mix as well. Jan Schwitter second in this race. Guilherme de Oliveira 6th, Robert Dehaan 7th, Matt Higgins made it through into the top 14 at the end of this all. So anything's possible. The unpredictability measure raises tenfold as we go through the race results for the second pre-final here for the Rotax Simracing Challenge here, Adam.
Indeed, yeah. Well, really looking forward to seeing that final race. Don't forget, if you are just joining us, we'll be having a few interviews with drivers now, and we'll be back for the 10-minute qualifying session just after 3 o'clock British Summer Time. That's 4 p.m. if you're in Europe, Central European Time. So the race results: Diogo Francisco wins the second heat race of the day. Jan Schwitter in second place, getting that runners-up spot very late on. Florian Garcia in third. Mikko Nassi in fourth place. So he managed to get up a position in the closing stages there. And then Daniel Daum in fifth. Guilherme Oliveira in 6th. In 7th, it's Robert Dehaan, then Teddy Sin, Philip Hammer in 9th, and Max Palmer completing the top 10. Adrian Kusaj in 11th, then Jose Soria in 12th for the Yaris Racing team. Gerardo Ramos in 13th place. There's Matt Higgins. 14th place finish in the end after starting outside the top 30. one of the biggest movers in the field, in fact the biggest mover in the field. He gained 20 places to finish there. Gabrielle Solomon in the end, 15th place. 16th for Martina Lackner. After looking for a while, it looked like she wasn't going to be able to get in the 18. It was a good drive there from her to get up into the top 18. Then it's Benny Simonson in 17th place. Dennis Verder King gaining a couple of places to finish 18th in the end. 19th place for Marcel Darvasi. And then 20th for Leonard Schreiber. 11 places gained for him there, but he's not going to be able to get in the top 18. Brent Gilks 21st, 22nd for Daniel Bauer. Then Tyler McEwen 23rd. Eric Kuhn there in 24th place after the collision on the back straight. Gutting for him. Then it's Jordan Petrovic in 25th. Martin Letouts in 26th place. Then the Aussie Colin Suti. Santiago Cabrera, who was flying about on the front straight, in 28th place, 2 laps down in the end. Then Aaron Engel, Marcel Eckhart in 30th. 31st for Dirk Henson. Lucas Thompson there in 32nd place after contact earlier. Then Mehdi El Farfi, those two coming together at the back end of the circuit. Then Dorian Chargonja in 34th, Miguel Lopez 35th, Xander Prizabilek in 36th place, and then at the back in 37th was Elliot Veyron. I don't think Elliot took the start either, so that is how the top 37 finished in the second heat race of the day, and looking forward to seeing how it's going to translate into the feature race, the main event, another 25-minute race that'll be starting in just under an hour. So looking forward to that, that's for sure. Alex?
Yes, a real shame, obviously, Xander Priblak. It took me months to get his name right, I can tell you now. Some of these surnames, these international surnames that we have, one of the things as a karting commentator, you have to try and get the surnames right. But yeah, Xander was the sole Belgian racing, so I know that everyone from, say, like the BNL karting series, Rotax Euro, Rotax Germany, everyone from the Rotax community should be watching. And some of the prizes on offer, we're not just giving away a ticket to the grand final, as I think we're looking at some replays from this race here, pre-final 2. But yeah, I think I'll go through those in a little bit, so at least people can understand what Rotax has put behind this event.
Indeed, yeah. Let's have a look back at some of the best moments then from the second race of the afternoon here in the Rotax Simracing Challenge. Decent start by most drivers there. We're looking at Max Palmer, who was right in the thick of the action in the early going. Of course, Diego Francisco led from lights to flag, similar to Guindy in the first heat race, pre-final A. There's a contact down at the first of the hairpins. Just after I think we'd said on the broadcast that things had been going well. That was where the contact was made there. Palmer, who ended up finishing in P10 in the end, 5 places gained. Just seeing if we have any drivers waiting to talk to us. I don't know whether we might need to put our Discord details in the YouTube chat. Not too sure here. But here is a replay, Weyhan, of the incident down at the first of the hairpins here, and it looks like it was Xander that was involved. Oh dear, yeah. And that was 19 that was involved too. Dorian that was involved there. He also finished down here, the 34th place in the end. Oh, okay, no worries. But yeah, that's what happened at the start of the race. Then this is still on the opening lap. This is Marcel Darvasi. Is that a John Player Special skip bar livery I see there? It does look pretty good, but the direction he's pointing in doesn't look too good there, as Marcel was turned around by somebody in the midfield there. So a lot of action going on in the early going. This is at the end of the first lap. This is Simonson. And so no, it's Matt Higgins actually we're looking at here. Going, and you mentioned there, Alex, that was him we're just looking at him avoiding the incident with the flying Gabera.
The flying Argentinian. Well, no, it wasn't him that was flying, but we had someone who had the old Colin Chapman Team Lotus retro livery that's lost its left front wheel, and someone went barrel rolling, a bit like a few Formula One drivers have done back in the early 80s and 90s. So it shows the dynamics are really, really realistic here in iRacing. But Matt Higgins just really has kept his nose clean. That was the main important thing, the main characteristic of this race for him. It was about survival. It wasn't about getting as high up the field as possible. It was making sure he got in the top 18. And
he didn't look back from there, really. Here is Mikko Nassi back in the lead. While we look at some of these replays, Alex, feel free to tell us about the rest of the prizes on offer for some of these guys competing in the feature race coming up.
Well, yes. Well, apart from the ticket to the e-kart Grand Finals, which is scheduled for Bahrain International Karting Circuit between the 7th and the 14th of November, the driver that wins this has to be eligible as per Rotax racing sporting regulations. The runner-up will get €500 of prize money. Third place, €250. Fourth place, 150, and €50 to our fifth place driver. One of the other things is that we, as I said, with regards to Rotax sporting regulations, if the driver that wins this event decides to go for the €500 prize money, we will actually pass that prize on to the person that could be the runner-up. So it's dependent on what the driver decides to do. If the driver is not old enough to compete in the e-kart Grand Finals, then we will move that prize on to one of the other top 5 and see who's accepting it.
There we go, plenty of prizes on offer. I think the chance to go to the Bahrain International Circuit is just pure brilliance, really. Especially to see some kart racing as well. So we continue to... Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the Bahrain International Karting Circuit actually hosted the FIA World Karting Championships back in 2017, and the finals were done under the floodlights at the circuit. I've watched all the footage on YouTube from the CIK FIA channel, and my goodness, it's going to be one heck of a venue when we get there. Not if, when we get there. And I know that everyone's, burning to get back behind the wheel in a real-time sort of sense. But obviously with the current situation, we at Rotax have had to adapt, and we followed the onward upgoing trend of embracing esports, which is something that we're privileged to do in our centenary as a company.
I haven't actually seen the Bahrain karting circuit. Is it just like a smaller version of in terms of the Grand Prix circuit?
It's got its own idiosyncrasies, Adam. Very different circuit, but it's not, like literally you were a stone's throw from where we saw that fantastic battle between Hamilton and Rosberg at the front of the field, where they had that duel for, I think it must have been quite a few laps, probably at least 10 of them, where they were going toe to toe, side pod to side pod, and you thought, who's going to blink first? And neither of them wanted to give it up, and it was the year that ended up with Rosberg as taking his sole world title before retiring.
Next replay we're gonna look at, who could forget that one? I remember watching, I think it might have been on Easter Sunday one year. We had quite a few people round for it. Here is Daniel Bauer. Oh, having a spin. Oh, he very nearly saved it at the bottom of the hill. That's a very big trait of these Skip Barber cars. Oh, and he nearly gets collected by somebody as well there, Wei-Han, on the replay.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly a good, nice incident. Of course, it does happen at places like these, this one especially, I think the drivers did not see it coming at all.
If you are new to iRacing, you do start off in the Mazda MX-5s, which do race at this circuit. And then once you've got your D license, which is like after the rookies, the lowest you can go, you then graduate into these cars. So it is a good proving ground for them. And you do race at tracks like this, like Lime Rock Park. Very short in length, well, reasonably short in length. This is probably one of the shorter tracks we go to on the iRacing service. And then from there, once you get your C license, you can go off into formulas of cars, the likes of Formula 3. We still do have the V8 Williams from the late noughties and the F1 days, plus the McLaren from the turbo hybrid era. So there is a good bit of progression there. And here is a replay of Marcel Venden Eckart, who finished down in 30th place in the end. Not too sure what happened to him. My replay is not playing ball here, so I don't know if you can see what's going on here, Wei-Han, in this part of the race.
So it would be a matter of him retiring mid-race. He was just stopping along the main stretch.
Indeed, yeah. So looks like we might have Bowers ready to talk to us in the interview room. It looks like he might be in the general. Am I right in thinking that's him, Alex, from the first race, I think, in the general?
Possibly. I'm going to send out an invite to the general chat on my relevant social medias, and possibly to some of the competitors if they want via Facebook, and I say, please, we want to talk to you. So give me a second. I'll see if I can do some invites on. I'll send out to the interview waiting area for us, so at least they can then try and jump into that. So hopefully some of them have got Discord.
There we go. Yeah, we are on air for another, I'd say, 20 minutes or so before we show you a full replay of what happened earlier in the skip bubble cars. There's a collision there. That is that Santiago Cabrera again going off on the exit of the final corner. I think it is. Yeah, so there is the Argentinian who finished in 28th place in the end. Here is Eric Kuhn. Is this going to be the crash we are going to be talking about for quite a while? Yes, it is. There's Martina on the right of your picture, and there's a collision. I'd like to see on board with Simonson, if that's okay, Frederick, our director and cameraman aficionado. Just want to see how much he gets into the back end. Here we go. Martina on the left. Do you know, I think you might see that when we cut back to it, Alex. I think it looks like he starts on the right, then moves back to the left, and then that's what contributes a bit to turning him around in the end.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I'm just sorry. You might hear some keyboard tapping at the moment while I'm just. So I'm just. I think I might struggle because a lot of them aren't either active on Facebook or they're too busy concentrating. But I've sent a request to Jan Schwitter, so see whether we can get him with us. But that's dependent on whether people have downloaded Discord. So
yeah,
your guess is as good as mine. I think a lot of us do know about it nowadays, being as it's the platform. But yeah, I mean, just like some of the racing from pre-final B was just absolutely fantastic. Just how close people were, and we had those moments where it was sort of like 3 wide. It was nearly 4 wide, I think, with Matt Higgins at one point. But yeah, I think for Benny Simonson to spend, what was it, 33 seconds in the pits, I think you said? And he comes out and still gets into the top 18. So I think he might have repaired some damage, for all we know. So obviously, I think he had an incident earlier on in the race, or something happened that caused him to be thrown into the pits. And he's probably decided, well, we'll see how this goes.
Well, yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Before I forget, Jan Schwitter will join us in a moment or two.
Oh, nice.
So I'll see if I can get a couple of the Rotax racers as well. So I'll see if we can probably maybe get Guilherme de Oliveira, if possible. So at least we'll have at least one Rotax racer with us as part of the interview section for the Rotax Simracing Challenge, Adam. So give me a couple of minutes.
No problem at all. One thing that we are looking forward to seeing in the main event itself is the fight for pole between Diogo Francisco and Guidi, the Mexican winner from the first heat race. The times that they were setting were quite remarkable. So they're going to have the track to themselves in the qualifying for the feature race, 2 laps, and that could be potentially pivotal in deciding the outcome of the main event itself.
Oh, sure, we will have to keep our eye on the qualifying lap times, we'll perhaps see how close they are. I do recall that both drivers might have gotten their lap times below the 1:43 barrier, so it will be very, very interesting.
Indeed, yeah. These Skip Barber cars, as you've seen throughout this afternoon, they've got very low-profile tyres that are grooved as well, so they do take a while to come up to speed. And after that, of course, they've got 2 laps to set a lap. They get an out lap, 2 flying laps, and then that's it, all in the space of 10 minutes. And it looks like, I think we might have Jan Schwitter available to come and speak to us, I think. I think that's
he's currently, he's in interview waiting area 1, so if we can pull him across, I'm not too sure how to do it. I've sent the invites out, so...
No worries. I'll drag him in for you.
Brilliant. So joining us in the interview section, Jan Schwitter from Switzerland. Jan, great job out there, my friend. How was it?
Good day, Alex. Yeah, it was nice, just keeping it safe and don't risk anything. Mm-hmm. It's just staying inside the top 18 to qualifying for the final, but it was a lot of fun with Florian there.
Yeah, some good moves between you, him, Mikko Nassi, Daniel Daum, who qualified P5. But you are not a novice at iRacing. I read a recent post on Rotax Switzerland that you've been doing iRacing for quite a bit of time as well, haven't you?
Yeah, doing iRacing since 2011, but it's still a new car for me because I never driven the Skip Barber in the official series, just doing other things like LMP2 or Pro Mazda. So new tires for me, new car, but I think it's just a little advantage because of feeling the sim a bit better.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, all the very best of luck for the final this afternoon. I know you're going to have your hands full with the likes of Johnny Guindy, Miko Nasi, Diogo Francisco, and everyone else. All the very best of luck this afternoon, Jan.
Thanks, and wish you a lot of fun by watching. Hope we can do a good show out there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jan.
Thanks.
So, Adam, a good insight from one of our Rotax racers, but it's going to be an interesting grand final where it's all on the line, and I'm getting goosebumps. The hairs are standing on the back of my neck already, and we're still a little bit further away from getting the qualifying session for that underway.
Yeah, of course, because in these two heat races that we've had so far, they were only fighting over a spot in the top 18, even though we did see some good scraps going on for second and third. Now it's all going to be about getting the best possible finish you can in the main event itself, and that, of course, that'll lead to the prizes that you've been talking about throughout the program as well. So yeah, really intriguing to see what's going to happen in the third race, the main event.
I think really the because we unveiled the Project C20 at Sarno in Italy last October. And for those from our Rotax family will know the kart very well. Right, we might have another interview with another Rotax racer, 6th place driver Guilherme de Oliveira very shortly. I've just messaged his dad Paulo, who's spectating, so muito obrigado, Paulo. I try and learn a little bit of the colloquialisms, like say, good morning, thank you very much, that kind of thing. That's the sort of incentive that you have as a commentator that spends most of his time over in Europe, meeting all different types of nationalities, and I met everyone from across the globe, from Chinese Taipei, Singapore, China, Japan, Malaysia, and the grand finals for those that have never qualified for it. For those that have been there, I'm going to try and send another interview request as well. So sorry about the typing there.
No worries, Alex.
I think it's just. Okay, brilliant. Guilherme's on his way to the sim. I've just been told. So we'll see if we can get another. We'll try and get some Rotax races, but obviously I think it'd be good to. Yeah, he's just had a quick lunch break. Cool. So yeah, I just think really at the end of the day we've got quite a lot of we've got quite a few drivers from the Rotax Racing family who have taken on the Sim Racing Challenge, and one of the things that we wanted to do for this was to open up the floodgates, because when you've seen things such as World's Fastest Gamer that James Baldwin has had, that kind of thing too. Gran Turismo, where Jan Mardenborough has now got a career over in Japan as a result of it. Lucas Ordonez, Wolfgang Hype, quite a few drivers that have come through that. McLaren Shadow, and then you see the correlation of how professional esports is becoming, and it's really just showing that we felt we needed to embrace it. And what if we had that fairy tale story that we at Rotax were able to provide? No worries. Matt Higgins won't be able to join us as he's not on Discord. That's fine. I'm just wishing.
Oh, we do have Oliveira ready to...
Yes. Yeah, let's pull Guilherme in. So, whenever you're ready. So, parabéns, Guilherme. Well done, buddy. Good job today.
Thank you.
So how was it? You had some really good battles with Teddy Sin, Robert Dehaan, Daniel Daum through the race. So just tell us from your perspective what it means to now get into the grand final of the Sim Racing Challenge.
Yeah, I was really happy to make on the first 72 on the qualifying sessions of during the week. After I was really happy to make the final because when I went to the final, I was just like, I need to be careful because a lot of crashes and a lot of battles on track, and I think I did really well. Just need to improve something for the final, and I think it will be okay.
I think really through both pre-finals, as you said, it's about being consistent. It's about keeping clean and not making any sudden maneuvers that could jeopardize you tumbling down the order, like we saw with a lot of drivers. But it really does have these sort of the grand finals ethos, doesn't it? That everyone's in the same car, everyone's on the same track, everyone's got the same opportunity. And you personally have been at several grand finals yourself, including last year in senior Rotax. I mean, does it sort of really fit a new, nice direction for Rotax here in the Simracing Challenge from your perspective?
Yeah. I think it has really good drivers here. Of course, we kart drivers don't have actually the same speed as the sim drivers. It's a bit of difference, but I think this race is with a really good level.
Well, Guilherme, parabéns.
Thank you,
and
Alex.
have a very good race this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you in the grand final.
Yeah, it's gonna be really difficult. Good job, thank you.
No problem. So that's a couple of the interviews that I've managed to sort with a couple of our Rotax guys. I don't know if we could probably get a word with Martin if he's about still, Adam. But I mean, that's probably an interview for you guys to do. I think I'm still overwhelmed, if I'm honest, with this being my second broadcast within 3 days being a part of in the sim racing world, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to say this now, I am a 100% convert. It's really helped to fill the gap that a lot of people are missing at the moment. I know that there are people that have their own opinion about it, but having watched it over the past couple of days, past few months, few weeks, I've really come to love esports and sim racing, and it's really a pleasure to be a part of the commentary team for this fantastic inaugural event for us here at Rotax.
Yeah, I've been amazed by the amount that's been going on and the positive reception it's all received. Granted, obviously, the current world situation, as bad as it is helps contribute towards that. I'm just hoping that the popularity for it does continue once everything, fingers crossed, slowly gets back to normal. Looking here at the first lap on board with De Oliveira here, after we spoke to him just a moment ago. I know that Weyhan has tried in vain to try and get Mikko Nassi in for a quick interview, and here he is, already up to 6th place, 4 places gained across that race. And we'll be on air for about 5 more minutes before we send it over to the replay for one of the earlier races, and then we'll be ready for. And then after that's finished, we'll be getting ready for the qualifying session for the main event itself. So not too long to wait now. As we're right on board with my red. Sorry, Alex.
Sorry about that. My good friend from the race box, Guillaume Alvarez, who is also a fellow karting commentator, he said, "Hi there, Alex. Good stuff. What pushed for Okayama to be the hosting location? Was it a fan vote? It wasn't. It was a decision that was taken by Rotax themselves. So we wanted to have that Olympic spirit, that parity of competition, which is what we pride ourselves on here at Rotax. That everyone gets, as I said earlier in the broadcast, we wanted to make it equal. It's provided some great entertaining action. We had the Rotax community races yesterday, which was brilliant. I think Mikko actually won the final in the afternoon. So he's got the pressure on him. That's very much the case. So yeah, I think realistically, we're just seeing on board with Guilherme at the moment. He's keeping his nose clean. He said it's very, as he said in the interview, very, very tough out there, but he's making some great passes. I think heading down the dip through into Revolver at turn 6, and then through Piper as one of the cars a couple of places up ahead. I think there might have been Simonson when he was in the top 5 in the early goings there. But he's just keeping his nose clean, keeping it nice and nicely done. So yeah, it's just really good to see all of this.
That was brilliant. I'd love to have watched one of these races from just the onboard camera. Some of these drivers, the way they were driving is nothing short of brilliant there. Looking here at Jan Schwitter, who we spoke to earlier, during the interviews, who finished in second at the conclusion of the second of the heat races. He is currently engrossed in a battle here on this replay. He is at this moment in time, it's Nasi leading the way, and then it's Diogo in second, and then we've got the likes of Florian Garcia, and then it's Jan Schwitter in fourth.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, Jan's just messaged me on Facebook, Adam, and he said that basically the car and the track is obviously the base content, because when the drivers signed up, they got a free 3-month trial with iRacing, and you got the car as part of the package. So that's where I think it was the decision that was made by Rotax that wanted to, as I said earlier, put in the parity. But Jan did a really good job. I mean, he had that fantastic move up the inside of Florian Garcia on the last lap of all to take second with just a handful of corners to go. And he did a fantastic job all race. You know, he qualified very high, P4. He dropped down a little bit further down towards the second half of the top 10 throughout the second pre-final, and assured his place in what's going to be a really interesting final to crown our inaugural Rotax Simracing Challenge a little bit later on this afternoon.
Well, we're looking forward to it, all of us here in the commentary box, and I think the time has come for us to take our little break, where we will show you one of the races from earlier in the Rotax Simracing Challenge. I think it might be one of the qualification races. We'll be back for the qualifying session at 13:50 GMT. That is 10 to 3 British Summer Time and 10 to 4 Central European Time. But we've had two thoroughly entertaining heat races here, the pre-final A and pre-final B in the Rotax Simracing Challenge, and it has left us on the edge of our seat waiting to see what's going to happen in the main event itself. So join us later on. But from me, Adam Bath, from Alex Goldschmidt, from Wei Han Chan in the commentary box, and from Frederick Nixel on the cameras, we're going to say goodbye for a little while, but make sure you're back in just over half an hour's time for the qualifying for the main event in the Rotax Simracing Challenge. We'll see you then.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the grand finale. It's put up or shut up here at the inaugural finale for the Rotax Sim Racing Challenge. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. Joining me in the commentary box, Adam Barth and Wei Han Chan with Friedrich Nichtel on camera duty here at Okayama. We have come down to this. 36 drivers from 540 that initially entered, over 360 kart races, 170 from the sim racing world, and it all comes down to this. Adam, Weihan, your thoughts ahead of what is going to be a fantastic 25-minute race. We're getting qualifying underway. 36 drivers who have been ultra competitive all the way through this, and we crown our champion in just around, 40 minutes time?
Oh yeah, it's been an enthralling afternoon, I'd say. We started off with the 2 heat races not too long ago. Both were exceptionally intriguing, if not maybe for the lead, which was pretty convincing if you were Giddy and our race 2 winner. And in the midfield, it was frantic going on for the fight for 18th place to get involved. And I think it went down to the final lap, final few corners, Weihan, to decide who was going to be involved there. They're now in the main event, and now they've got these 2 laps in qualifying to make sure they've got their starting spot, the best starting spot possible.
Certainly. Now, we do also see some of the drivers, they are weaving around the track now. Of course, in iRacing, because of the more recent tire models, it does help if you weave around to get more heat into the tires. Now, of course, this very race is going to be the manifestation of a few days of intense racing from a few hundred drivers who have qualified for this Rotax Sim Racing Challenge up to this point where we have the fastest 36 drivers who have been filtered down, and these drivers, or rather everything, will go down the line.
And Alex, I think we saw in the practice just before we came back on air that it was what we were expecting from the 2 heat races. Guindy, the Mexican, and Diogo Francisco, both battling out for the top 2 positions.
It's quite funny you say that, because one of the biggest things, I've been keeping an eye on the lap times, Adam, and Diogo Francisco has absolutely obliterated in free practice the time that was set by Johnny Guindy on day 2 of the initial qualifying stages by over a 10th. That's how much of a little bit of a dark horse I think Diogo Francisco has been. He's kept a little bit in reserve, or he's really come good around about now, because these drivers have been putting in hundreds of laps. Over the first 3 days of qualification, we whittled it down from 540, 319 managed to get on iRacing and compete, down to the last 72, and it was so nip and tuck. Johnny Guindy nailed it in 1 session. The rest of the drivers had up to, I think it was 5 attempts a day on the respective 4 servers that we were running on iRacing, and Mikko Nassi came to within 2 1,000. So I'm going to have a look at where Diogo Francisco actually qualified, because that's going to really give us an interesting sort of telling point here on how much he actually kept behind. He actually qualified P4 overall on a 1 minute 42.591. So that was 0.109 of a second off of Johnny Guindy at the end of 3 days. And now he's sort of like thought, well, I've got myself into the top 72. That's what I wanted to achieve. And as we're halfway through, Guindy's in the hot seat for provisional pole for the grand final here for the Rotax Sim Racing Challenge. Lackner, Martin Renhofer, Curtis Fong, Hammer, Avisculeti, Oliveira, Riepel, Palencia, Robert DeHaan rounding out the top 10. And it's pretty close here as well, Weihan. 1.3 seconds separating the top 10 drivers.
Oh, this show is very close. Now, given the length of this circuit, of course, this is a moderate length circuit on the iRacing service. This would be quite a fair, I guess, a fair differentiation of different lap times. But of course, with the drivers within such close margins, it does mean that everyone is on very similar paces, and it's all down to the many milliseconds that will differentiate each driver.
That's very much the case as Matthew Higgins crosses the line. Where does he end up, I wonder, Adam?
Well, he's gone. So he's dropping down to 16th, 17th because a few more lap times are coming in. Woodstoff goes within 76 thousandths of Diogo Francisco, straight to the top of the timing order there with a 1:42.930. Guindy's now been pushed back down to 9th after all those lap times have been put in. Justin Allison coming to complete his lap now. Ramos 8th, down to 7th. Schwitter 6th. Sova in 5th. Then Kofanov in 5th because O'Keefe has just gone into 3rd. Nassi up to 4th. It's exceptionally close, as you're probably seeing, Alex, from the time to the top 5. As here comes Allison over the line to set a lap time. He's going to go up to 30 seconds with a 1:44.4.
Yeah, Mikko Nassi's gone up into P4. Patrick Woodstoff has deposed Kenneth O'Keefe for 2nd position. Schwitter now towards the second half of the top 10 in P8. Matthew Higgins is down in 23rd ahead of Robert De Haan. Teddy Sin 21st. Martina Lagner, who was actually in the top 5 in free practice. She's been very, very quick. P17, Martin Renhoff rounds out the top 15. Benny Simonson is actually ahead of Johnny Guindy in 11th and 12th respectively. So the fight for pole is still very much open. There are still some drivers that will be putting in their lap times. Guilherme de Oliveira is actually down in 31st, so he's got to do what we would call in the karting industry a top gear from the rear.
Oh yeah, but we've seen a few drivers do that in the heat races, haven't we? Where we saw Higgins starting outside the top 30, and he managed to make it into the top 18. So a solid drive from towards the rear of the field is still manageable, especially in this car and track combination.
Yeah, very much so. It is easy to make a jump on various drivers. Of course, you do have drivers the likes of Curtis Fung, who had, of course, lapped many positions during his heat race.
Not too long to go now in the qualifying session. There's not too many more cars out on the circuit. I think Philip Hammer has already is on a hot lap at the moment. He's currently in 14th place in the qualifying tree. I think Max Palmer is also on a hot lap. So those guys have got a few minutes left to get their lap time done. Here is Max Palmer.
Quite interesting. Yeah. Sorry, Adam, but the top 24 in this session split by exactly a second from Diogo Francisco on provisional pole with Matthew Higgins, P24. I've seen qualifying sessions in karting. Now I've seen it in the virtual world, and it's just as exciting. The hairs on the back of my neck, the goosebumps as Racecraft Esports on our YouTube chat here on Apex Racing TV says, go get them, Diego. Well, he's doing the right thing at the right time. As Patrick Woodstoff he's done a 43.0, so he's about 0.076 of a second off of Francisco. So they've had their opportunities, but Hammer's on a hot lap. He's in about the last fifth of the lap here at Okayama, just under 2.3 miles in length, as is now Max Palmer in 21st in the 404. We see him now on the screen, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting as we fast approach the end of this session ahead of the final race of the Simracing Challenge All. On tender hooks now, Adam. Wait, Han.
9 thousandths of a second between Woodstoff and O'Keefe as well. Here comes Max Palmer over the line. Was it a time for him to improve? Doesn't look like it. He stays in 21st place. Hammer did a 1:43.5, which was a personal best. But it looks like it kept him in 14th place, and that is everybody now finished their laps. So the time has come for us to advance to the race session. 25 minutes for the final race today, and the starting grid will be on your screen any moment now. And yeah, there it is. So Diogo Francisco starting on the pole, then it's Patrick Woodstoff second, Kenneth O'Keefe third, and Alex, I'm hoping you can see the grid as well. Talk us through some of the big hitters there as we get ready to go.
Well, keep your eyes out for Hungary's Laszlo Zawever in 7th and Jan Schwitter rounding out the 4th row. Benny Simonson down in 11th. Johnny Guindy, our pole setter after the first 3 days of qualification, down in P12. Martin Renhofer down in 16th. You're going to have to watch out for Matt Higgins, Robert DeHaan, Guilherme de Oliveira down in P32. That is on the outside of row number 16. Sujas and Soria round out the 18 rows of 36 competitors. But I think this is going to be where the unpredictability factor goes up to a completely haut niveau, as they say, Adam, because it's really anyone's game. I mean, Martina Lackner could even factor into this. You've got so many good drivers and there's so many competitive drivers. It is going to be absolutely brilliant for the next 25 minutes here at Okayama.
And one thing that we could be watching out for, Wayhan, is as Alex was saying there, Martina starting in around 18th place, fighting for 18th there. She could end up towards the top 10 or maybe even the top 5 in this one. So plenty to watch out for, as we have got just a few cars left to get on the grid, and then we're ready to go. We are ready to go then. Here come the lights. 25 minutes, the feature race here at Okayama in the Rotax Sim Racing Challenge. Go! Francisco gets a good jump away from the line. It looks like Patrick Woodstoff is going to slot into second place. Watch out for Kenneth O'Keefe going around the outside there in a 73 car. And Mikko Nassi, who's looking up the inside as well, going into the first corner. They avoid contact. That's the most important thing. You've got through the 2 heat races. You don't want to ruin your race within the first lap. But it looks, and there's a spinner in the background. That was Dmitry Kofanov, wasn't it?
There was also Soria, I think, has spun as well. Max Palmer's gone off track. He's down to 33rd at the minute. So already a couple of casualties, and we've not even completed the first lap already, Adam. It's kicking off as looks like Nassi's going to be hounded for 5th by both the likes of, well, he's down to, be that like the likes of Garcia and Laszlo Zueva. Schwitter's not far behind them either, rounding out the top 7 positions, as it's nearly side by side between Francisco and Woodstoth for the lead. Nassi down in 3rd position. And Guindy's down into 13th as Teddy Sins now got off track. So he's had a bit of a drama as we're literally 60 or so seconds in, not even completing lap 1, around about 1 minute 45 around here at Okayama. And it sounds like it's even getting worse out there, Adam.
Yeah, 2 cars off. Wait, Hannah, it looks like Flavia Dantas, Johnny Guindy, the Heat 1 winner. Well, that's not at all gone to plan for him. After winning the first heat of the day, he is way down the order. He is down to 34th place, and that could be his race already over. But here comes Diogo Francisco Wayham through the final corner. Patrick Woodstoff is right on his rhythm. He's gone off in the final corner.
And it is Mikko Nassi who does go to have a look along the inside. He is in 4th. He might go for the move. He might take 2 at once, but he doesn't think of that. He returns to the slipstream and returns to 4th. Of course, he is giving Kenneth O'Keefe a lot of pressure as they take turn 1. This is Daniel Daum, and he is with Martin Renhofer. And they are fighting for 11th at this point. Many cars taking it too wide towards this section, because this is where you have various racing line options. Some of them using make a good use of that runoff. Of course, it's always nice with these cars. They are relatively forgiving if you don't push them over the limit.
And at the end of that first lap, Alex, we had Flavio Dantas in the pits, Teddy Sin, Alberto Palencia, Justin Allison, Johnny Guindy as well, Jose Soria, and a few others, all having to come to the pits at the end of the opening lap. But here come the leaders down the back straight, and it's as you were really in terms of the top 4, all where they started.
Yeah, it's been very close at the top 4. So now they've been able to get a bit of a breakaway, and the gap is around about 1.1 seconds between Mikko Nassi from Finland. We're just going back to a replay here of what was one of the incidents. So they're coming down the hill through in towards Revolver and Piper Corner. So this is right at the back end of the field. Now that's a bit of a whack and a hit, and we've had a rollover at the other side. So not good for some of our competitors. As we have a look at the start here again, Jose Soria from Spain in the number 60 gets turned around and then gets collected. So not a great bit of work for anybody. As we now go to Francisco. Hang on, is it me? I'm just seeing where Matthew Higgins is. He's tumbled down the order. Big time. Absolutely big time. Down to 22nd. Actually, make that... He's coming... I think he's out. That's his day done. the sole Brit that had made it through to the top 36 here. He's out of the race.
Well, we're about to have a look at a replay here that might explain it, or maybe not. But yeah, Matt Higgins, it's not as if he's been shown as having been in the pits or whatever, but yeah, he is. I'm not too sure what's happened to him, but that's a massive shame. After gaining all those places to get into the feature race, it looks like it's over. After just 2 laps, down the back straight we go then. Diogo Francisco's got Patrick Woodstoff for company. Woodstoff has been putting in the decent sectors over the last lap or so, excuse me, as they get on the brakes into the hairpin. And who's this up the inside? It is this is a fight between Ramos, Gerardo Ramos in 5th place, and Laszlo Sofa in 6th place. And Gerardo's gained 5 places since the start of the race, so a decent drive through the field so far by the Iberian. And if he continues at that rate, he might be able to close in on this top 4, which seems to be the immovable objects at the moment, because they are all where they started, as they try to keep the cars behind from trying to invade that little group.
Yeah, just keeping an eye. I think Matt Higgins is still running, Adam, but he's down in 31st position. Teddy Sin is now in the pits as well, so that will put Matt Higgins to the bottom part of the top 30. But just keeping an eye on the lap times between Francisco and Woods Toth as we're looking to go to another replay. This is Matt Higgins now. We're going to see what happens here. So they're going up towards the hairpin. Oh, and he's clattered into the back, and he's, that's ended his race. So he's clattered into the back of somebody else. I'm wondering whether that might have been, I'm not too sure whether it was Teddy Sin if he was running a fluorescent livery, but Miko Nassi has set the fastest lap of the race at 1:43.04 from the Finn. And he's about 9/10 of a second off of Kenneth O'Keefe at the minute, or maybe it might be even less than that. So the gap is decreasing as Nassi now putting the pressure on after nearly 6 minutes completed of this final race in the Rotax Simracing Challenge. Excitement to plenty, I think, as we've got one car to the side there coming up the back straightaway.
Yeah, that was Dmitry Kofanov, the 11, that was parked at the side of the road. Fortunately, no one hit him. Looking at some of the big movers in the opening few laps, 12 places, first being that 13 places came from Robert DeHaan. He's gone up to 12th place. Other big movers include Nathan Brito, Nino Reipel up 13 places to 17th. Adrian Kusaj up 15 places to get inside the top 20 already. So very good start from him. And Marcel Darvaj, who's just in front of him, who's gained 12 places. There he is, the 36 car. He's up to 19th. The big losers, though, are Florian Garcia, down 17 places to 22nd. Jan Schwitter, we were talking to him at the end of the second heat race. He has lost 16 places and is down in 24th. Oh my goodness me, that is the fight between Stockfleff, and it looks like the Swede has been pushed wide. He's going to come back on the circuit, hopefully no damage caused. Oh, and he's clattered into the car in front of him. That's Martina Lackner, who nearly spins the car around and pulls off a fantastic save there, Weyhan.
That was a great save indeed. It could have been a disaster for either of those drivers. They go side by side into turn 1. And this is going to be Lackner. And, well, look, that was really unprecedented. These two drivers, they did not get the outcome that they had expected. Lackner in 16th, and it would be Stockfleff in 18th.
Well, I think, Alex, Weyhan said that nearly ended in disaster, and I think it did then in the end in that first corner.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It looks like Martinez sustained damage to the right front of the car itself. But I've had some interesting information now. For when we had a look at the replay with Matt Higgins, did you guys spot that his nose cone was missing? He had contact before the incident going into hairpin. And his dad, David's, just actually messaged me and just said that there was some contact between the pair of them. As Dmitry Kovanov has just said that, unfortunately, there was a bug for him, and iRacing didn't allow him to get to the grid. So, unfortunately, Dmitry was not able to take part, so it's booted him out of the system. But Matt had damage to the front of the vehicle caused by a contretemps between him and Robert DeHaan. So it's unfortunate for Matt because he had no control. He would have had no aero, even though the front wings on these Skippy Barber Formula 2000 cars are minuscule. They still provide some sort of aerodynamic efficiency.
Just having a look at some of the other cars that we seem to have lost in this one. Dennis Verdeking, I don't know whether he started or not. He's down right at the back in 38th place. That's a shame because he was one of the drivers that we saw in the second heat race really, really close to potentially missing out on this one. So to get in and then not be able to take the start is a massive shame for him. Fastest lap of the race, though, 42.8 for Ramos. I did say that he could be getting closer to these guys, and he's now just 2 seconds away. He was 2 tenths quicker than Mikko Nassi on that last lap. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see how 2 seconds away between 2 seconds separate Nassi and Ramos. What sort of gap does he need to get it down to before he can start to get the benefit of the slipstream on the back straight?
We could expect 0.5 of a second for the slipstream to come into effect, but of course, I think when you have a stretch that is long enough, when you're fast enough, I think any little bit of difference in air pressure can give you that bit of a benefit that you require. Of course, the pressure is on whoever who will lead this pack into the corner. They go into the hairpin. This is Saver who leads. Simonson and Ramos, these two drivers, 6 and 7, they are switching positions. But of course, for Saver, he has pressure from behind to keep both drivers honest, and at the same time, he also has to try to make as much gains to close his gap with Nassi as much as possible.
And that's going to be the tough thing for Ramos and all these guys here, isn't it, Alex? Because you think you've got the move done, and then you think, right, I can start looking forward now. But then all these guys, they start swarming all over you again when they get onto the back straight here.
What they've got to do is they've got to start working together. That's the key point. They've got to start working together, because if they want to catch the 4 in front and make it a 7-way scrap for the grand prize here, the Rotax Simracing Challenge, that's the best opportunity. They've got under 15 minutes of this race left to go, Adam. And let's not forget, there is still plenty of twists and tales, probably more than the never-ending story here, where we'll have an opportunity, as we're now with Richard Basford from Team Highlighter in the number 21 from Canada. So he's leading the train from 9th, 10th and 11th, which includes Philipp Hammer and Martin Rennhofer in the 24 and 333 respectively. So that's a nice little battle for the lower part of the top 10, but it's not close enough to get anywhere near towards the top 5 at the minute. So they'll have their own battle, but now I think the battle really is going to be between not only the top 4, but if Zueva, Ramos and Simonson start working together, they need to do so. And Simonson's actually the quickest of the trio at the minute in terms of concurrent paces. Ramos did a 1:43.5, Down did a 1:43.36, and then Simonson put in a 1:43.14 on the last lap around. So they need to work together. They can't do this sort of like as you can on a karting track. So let's say, look, give them the sort of like, let's go for it. You know, these drivers will be wanting to outdo one another here, as I think there's going to be a move between Simonson. Well, Simonson's back, but Down I think has got past. Is that Ramos? That's Zueva probably going up the inside of Ramos through the hairpin. And Simonson just behind. So Simonson sitting in 7th place. But it's a great little battle there. So Zueva is behind Ramos. So yeah, still to play for. But there's still a 2-second gap between Ramos and Nassi. If they don't start working together now, Adam, it's going to be too late before they know it.
I was just going to say, yeah, you mentioned the whole working together element. Is that something that you see happening in karting as well? Little groups of drivers working together to make sure they can catch the guys in front of them?
Yeah, significantly. And then a couple of laps before the end, it's all gloves off, which is very different in the esports racing world, because you might be in a chat, you might be in a group call or something like that, talking amongst yourselves, or you might just decide to put yourself on silent, not hear anything, and just zone in, which is what any good racer will do, whether it be esports or real life. You zone out, you concentrate on what you're doing and play your strategy. And it's even more prevalent here in the virtual racing world.
Here we are, looking at the 2 fights going on right at the front of the field. And we'll going at it for those big prizes that we mentioned earlier on in the second heat. And it looks like that Patrick Woods has got a fantastic run on Diego Francisco. It's just going to be a case of whether he can get the move done or not. He pulls out of the slipstream, and if anything, that slows his top end speed down and allows Diego back to pull ahead. Or maybe he's just keeping his cards close to his chest in the opening, well, half of the race. We've just gone past the halfway distance. Here come the squabbling trio of Messrs. Sofa, Ramos and Simonson, and they're still at it. They are now 2.1 seconds away, Wayhan, of the fight for the lead. And as Alex has been talking about, they do need to work together. But even though there's still quite a bit of the race to go, it looks like they're still squabbling over their own individual positions as we look at another battle pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah, they sure do, and I think ultimately it's all about the balancing act, as we have Basford and Daum, these two drivers fighting it out. This is for position 8. I've also got Hammer over in 10th it is a very effective three-way battle. They come upon the final corners, nearly losing the rear end. Basford through the second to last corner. They come upon the last corner, and this is going to be a top speed run to the end. Look, it's all about understanding what exactly you're looking for. Do you want to close the gap with the driver in front and risk, because the thing is, it's not always that you would have 100% trust with the other drivers around you, and sometimes you might decide to play the safer strategy, whenever it plays to your benefit.
Yeah, I was doing the iRacing Nürburgring 24 hours at the weekend, and the amount of trust I had to put in the GT3 cars. I was in one of the Audi touring cars for that one, and going around a circuit like the Nordschleife, you've got to really put your trust in their hands really when they come to lap you. Fortunately, most of the drivers I was racing with were good at lapping me, but no need to worry about blue flags here. These drivers are going straight at it. They've all qualified during the week and, of course, in the heat race as well. Simonson up the inside into the right-hand hairpin at the end of the back straight. Just not close enough to get past Ramos there to try and get up into 6th place. He's going to have to try and go back to the drawing board and think where he can get the move done as we ride on board with him. Great shot here. It's brilliant watching these drivers put in the steering input. Now going towards the complex at the end of the lap. Is he going to go for a send up the inside here? You see how late they brake. They also move over to the inside line. And this is a part of the circuit, Alex, where you've really got to work the car, especially through this part of the circuit. Look at them. They're almost turning in they're trying to use the brake pedal to try and help them turn in a bit more, it looks like, through that part of the circuit.
It's definitely the case because they're using the brake pedal as a means of rotating the car. So the back end's going to start sliding out, but they've got to catch it using the steering. So it's a delicate balancing act. It's very much the same in karting. If you could, well, let's say for instance the British Touring Car Championship, it's a perfect example of rotating the car. That you've got to use the momentum, but you have to step on the brakes a little bit to help that back end sort of give you a bit of it's like a Scandinavian flick, if you will. Even though these cars are rear-wheel drive, you're going to get that same kind of effect. So you've got to use the brake pedal to sort of really put the anchors in. And how they set up the cars, as Simonson has set a pretty quick lap, a 1 minute 42.567, fastest lap of the race, down in P7 as he's still battling away with Ramos now, as Laszlo Zueva has got a little bit of breathing space, but I think we're going to go back to a replay here.
Yeah, I'm sure you see what's like. Oh no, Florian Garcia has just pulled to the side of the road, and that is the end of the race for Florian. That's a shame. Was running up at the very front in the second heat race, but things haven't gone according to plan, have they, in this one? Meanwhile, here comes Ramos around the outside of Sofa, going into the right-hander at the end of the straight. Watch out, because Simonson's now going to come up the inside. He doesn't need asking twice. It is very difficult to get a move done around the outside of here, though, and that's why, because it is very much one line through this very short section of the circuit, these two corners, and now back into the complex again. It is that quick around this circuit. It's around just over 100 seconds in lap here at Okayama in Japan. And right now, it's almost like the calm before the storm, I'd say, where everybody is trying to get moves done, but I'd say we'll see in the final 5 minutes or so them really start to go at it and try and use the slipstream to their advantage. I'm really intrigued to see what Woods Toff is going to do as well and trying to get past Francisco, because he is definitely picking up the slipstream and is lapping almost identical to what Diogo's doing at the front.
So this very shot, you can see a kind of a contrast between perhaps the driving attitudes of the first pack as well as the second pack. So of course, first and fourth, this pack, they do keep it all together, of course, with their goal of trying to maintain their advantage ahead of everyone to try to create a buffer, whereas for 5th, 6th, and 7th, I guess their focus is more on trying to edge one another out before they get the strongest driver to lead the pack through to where Nasi is.
And here we are, into the right-hander then. We haven't got too many more laps to go here at Okayama in Japan, and we're boiling up to a very exciting finish here. As you can see from the intervals, Alex, on the side of the timing screen, most of the cars inside the top 1.5 dozen are separated by less than half a second.
It's ridiculous. I knew it was going to be competitive. I didn't realise it was going to be that competitive. But the gap between Woods Toth and Francisco definitely being decimated by the former. As looks like there's been a move up the inside. Ramos has got past Laszlo Zueva for P5, so that's best of the rest there, I think. They're fast running out of time, Adam, because we've got, 6.5 minutes on the clock remaining. The battle now is between the top 4 for the grand prize. So Francisco continues to lead. Woods Toth. Oh,
sorry, I thought I saw a change for lead. I think they were just coming up to lap Anthony Milo, sorry.
They probably, yeah, I think you're right. So this is where it's going to get interesting, because if they start clawing up to any back markers, I'm just going to have a quick check on the timing. Well, Flavio Dantas, who...
Sorry, they've gone. Oh no, it's all gone horribly wrong, and that's the end of the race for Ramos and the end of the race for Nassi, and that's also Simonson parked in the middle of the road.
Oh, he's rolled it. He's rolled
Yeah, he
it.
has.
And that's so... So that has really given an opportunity for us to have a mano-a-mano battle at the front of the field between Diogo Francisco and Patrick Woodstoth. Absolute carambolage there coming out of the final corner there. My goodness.
Well, it's something. I wonder why was Nassi's car in the middle of the road at that point? Had something happened between he and Anthony Milo? We did see the Frenchman who was getting lapped, parked at the side of the. Parks at the side of the circuit, going into the final corner. Oh, Nassi's already off at this point, and then he rejoins the circuit. Oh, and then Simonson, it's his late reaction to move that results in him barrel rolling the car, and poor Ramos is out of it as well. I wonder what happened to force Nassi, the Finn, off at the final corner, but he's out of the race now.
I think it's whether he's gone up the inside at turn 10 or 11 and lost it. That's where I'm thinking. If he's lost the momentum through turn 10...
You'll see on the replay now.
Yeah, let's have a look. Oh, no, it's a clatter between second and third, and Nassi's had nowhere to go. So that would have been between...
That was the back marker, wasn't it?
That was the back marker.
That was Anthony and O'Keefe, wasn't it? Oh, dear. Well, such drama, Wayhan, and we've got 5 minutes to go. Hammer's also come into the pit, so we have lost quite a few cars within the last few laps or so. And look at that! You were talking about the shot of this shot a couple of laps ago, where we saw about 3 different battles on the straight. There's barely any of them left. We've only got 4 cars within one shot.
Yeah, well, we certainly did not see that coming. I'm so sorry, Alex.
No, it's all right. You go ahead. You go ahead. I'm just sort of... I'm trying not to tread on anyone's toes here, but everyone's been tripping over each other out on the circuit. As we've seen, it's been a bit of a. I wouldn't say it's been a bit of a wreck fest. It's been very, very interesting. But this lead between Francisco and Woodstoth is not going anywhere. I mean, we're less than 4 minutes to go, and Woodstoth is just waiting. He's like a wild tiger in the reeds, a bit like Shere Khan in the Jungle Book. He's waiting to make the move on Diogo Francisco as they come down the back straightaway, heading towards the hairpin at turn 5. I think Woodstoth is just trying to time it, see if he can make Diogo Francisco make a mistake. I think that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to put the pressure on.
Yeah, no, you could even hear it on the engine. You could hear that. In fact, Woodstoth was just lifting ever so slightly when he was close enough to Francisco. So clearly, he does have something up his sleeves. His gloves are still on at this point, not off yet. But of course, we do have 3 minutes of racing to go. So this could just be a matter of time before we see Woodstoth make a move on Francisco.
Well, when we get to the line, we are going to be starting... I'm trying to do some quick maths here. We'll be starting a penultimate lap. So 2 laps to go to decide who's going to be the winner here. Both drivers pushing to the limit, almost running into the dirt on the exit of the final corner. And if these two collide, it looks like Kenneth O'Keefe and Laszlo Sofa will be one of the drivers to potentially benefit from all that. The top 10 is rounded out by Fung in 5th, who's gained 12 places since the start of this one. Robert Dehane, who's gained 19 places to be up in 6th. Then it's Nino Riepel, who's gained 23 places to get up to 7th place. Some mammoth drives going on here. Then Martin Renhofer, Martina Lackner up in 9th, and Louis Stockfleth completing the top 10 here.
Yeah, it's still very interesting. It's still this cat and mouse game between the leaders here, Adam, because Renhofer's just put in a 1:42.7, so he's the quickest of anyone between 5th to 10th place. But yeah, I think as Wei-Han was saying, that Woodstoth is just timing it. And this, I think, is going to come down to the wire. I've seen this kind of thing happen before in karting, and you never quite know what to expect. And it's going to be an unpredictable race finish, I fear. As Solomon now is one of the other drivers. I think we've had at least 12 drivers eliminated from this final here in the Rotax Simracing Challenge as they go down the dip into Piper and then the left at 7 at Revolver. But yeah, it's been such a great afternoon's worth of racing here on Apex Racing TV. But yeah, still quite close. I think when you say Wei Han, it's just as you said, Woodstoth just having that little something up like the ace of the pack, I think.
Certainly, he is still set behind Francisco. I think with every passing corner is every one less opportunity for his move to come to fruition. So of course he goes along the main stretch. I'm so sorry, Adam.
That's okay.
Now this is not where he thinks of making a move. He was about to make the move through that corner, but I think he was still holding it back. We've got less than a minute left. Oh, a little bit loose. I think he went through the entry, but of course he still manages to keep this gap neat.
Well, I think you mentioned those gloves being on. I think they're most definitely off now. They run it out so wide. I'm always amazed that they never end up spinning off by dipping two wheels into the dirt on the outside. But here we go, onto the back straight. This is where we've seen Patrick Woodstock get right up to the rear of Francisco. Is this going to be the opportunity for him now? Francisco has dominated his own heat race and has dominated this heat race up to now. But I think Patrick Woodstock might just have it in hand here if he can carry the speed around the outside into the next left-hander. Oh, that's very close indeed. Round the outside goes Patrick Woodstock. He is going to be on the inside line though for the next left-hander, and that could be crucial. He is marginally in front, and he has got the lead with 1/3 of the lap to go. A fantastically executed move by Patrick Woodstock, but it's by no means over yet as they go into the final few corners. This is going to be a fantastic finish, but I think Diogo Francisco is now going to have to get inventive if he wants to regain the race lead. He's led, well, every 14.5 laps here at Okayama, but it looks like he's not going to lead the final half of a lap that matters, because we are coming into the final two corners now, and it looks like they nearly collide. It's going to be Patrick Woodstock from Canada is going to take the checkered flag and win with a last lap overtake the Rotax Simracing Challenge here at Okayama. Wow, what a finish, Alex.
Congratulations. Patrick Woodstock, for those wondering where he qualified, it was actually not. I'm having a look. He qualified in 11th position after the 3 days of qualification. Well done. That was a great drive. We could see it was coming. Commiserations to Diogo Francisco from Portugal, who takes the runner-up position. Kenneth O'Keefe in 3rd, Laszlo Zuaver in 4th, and Curtis Fung. So that makes it 3 Canadians in the top 5. So we had Heipel, Martin Reinhofer, Martina Lachner made it up to 9th at the end of the race, ahead of Louis Stockfleth from Scandinavia. Jan Schwitter started in P8, but would end up in P11 at the end of it all. But more positional games. Suzat up to 13th at the end behind Martin Brouwers and Jan Schwitter. Marcel Davasi and Guilherme de Oliveira both made up 17 places, up to 14th and 15th, respectively. That was an absolutely brilliant race. Just a real shame for the likes of Simonson and Nasi getting caught up in that incident a few laps from the end of the race, Adam.
Oh, definitely, yeah. We could have had a even more insane finish if those guys had still been able to see the final lap. And Wei Han, that final lap move by Patrick Woodstock, it looked like it was something that he might have had up his sleeve since the start of the race. And once he got round the outside of the hairpin at the end of the back straight and he was up the inside into the left-hander, it looked like he was on course to victory from that moment, really.
Yeah, that was the final nail on the coffin for the race win. I think, it doesn't matter perhaps for the number of laps that you lead. I think it's all down to the final moments where crunch time strikes. So this is your race results.
Sorry. Let's run you through them then. Patrick Woodstock wins the race, 0.2 of a second ahead of Diogo Francisco, and it was a last lap overtake that got him the win, and well done to him. Kenneth O'Keefe completes the podium. And it's Laszlo Sofa in 4th, then Curtis Fung in 5th, Robert De Haan 6th, Nino Reipel 7th, and then the top 10 rounded out by Martin Renhofer, Martina Lachner, and Louis Stockfleth. Some good drives in there, by the way. Nino Reipel gained 23 places to finish in 7th, Robert De Haan 19 to finish in 6th, and Curtis Fung 12 to finish in 5th place. 11th place finish for Jan Schwitter. We spoke to him before the start of the proceedings this afternoon, and he finished in 11th place. Martin Brouwers in 12th. 13th place for Adrian Kusaj. Then Marcel Davasi in 14th. Guilherme Oliveira in 15th place. Then Richard Basford, Daniel Daum, Max Palmer in 18th place. 19th for Dragos Avasoguti in 19th. And then Jerzy Klacz in 20th. 21st place for Gerardo Ramos. 22nd for Flavio Dantas. And then 23rd for Philip Hammer. Justin Allison there in 24th place, 1 lap down. Get problems for Gabriel Solomon in 25th. There's Mikko Nassi in 26th place, so close to potentially being on a podium, maybe even challenging for the win there. And then Benny Simonson, Nathan Brito, Anthony Milo, who was one of the lap cars that almost kick-started that whole mess at the final corner. Then Florian Garcia, Dmitry Kofanov, Matt Higgins, Teddy Sin there in 33rd. There's Johnny Gindy, who was the winner of the first heat race of the day. Then after that is so there you go, drag Alex back in. Then after that is Alberto Palencia, Jose Soria, then Nathan Brito in 37th, Dennis Verdeking there at the back in 38th. Not too sure why the 99 car didn't take the start there. Also at the rear, 39th place, Adilson Jr. as well. So 2 Brazilians bringing up the bottom 3 there.
Apologies for that. I've done a rookie error. I accidentally knocked myself into interview waiting whilst trying to put the Discord interview link in the YouTube chat. So if you can't have a laugh at yourself, life ain't worth living these days. But but yeah, I think Patrick Woodstoth, congratulations, well done. Our inaugural Rotax Sim Racing Challenge. But yeah, I mean, what a race. What a race. I mean, what a way to conclude it. I think we're gonna go through some of the highlights here, Adam.
Yeah, I believe, are we looking at the race winning overtake? I can't see it on my screen, but
I think so the start phase where we see that Francisco got a really good start, and then the top 4 started sort of trying to pull away. And it was sort of like 3-4 abreast going into turn 1 for the very first time. So a lot of action in the early sort of couple of corners. We had the early elimination with Zander Triblak. A couple of corners after the starts, as I think I just saw through Williams, Mikko Nassi going a bit wide on the approach to the Moss S's. And then I think we've got where Francisco was being bump drafted by Woods Toth. And that's when he puts it round the outside of Diogo Francisco. Yeah, so, some really good racing. And this is the move that made it happen on the final lap of the race. Okay. So I think I'm getting some messages in on Facebook. But at the moment, I think you can just see with how much Francisco was trying to fight back there, Adam, on the onboard.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I feel really sorry for Mikko. I really do feel sorry for him. Having nowhere to go, coming through the penultimate corner, and the back marker I think just got in the way of proceedings, and then it was just it was bad luck for him, and obviously Dmitry Kovanov as well. Kovanov having the bug issue, which didn't allow him on the grid before the race.
Looking here at Martin Renhofer, I believe, on a replay during the race, and those were the number of incidents, the big incidents that we saw during that one. The incident with the back markers, and of course the fantastic overtake on the final lap as well between Patrick Woodstoff and Diogo Francisco. Diogo was desperate to try and get that lead back after having it for so long, and it wasn't to be in the end. Second place is still a solid result for him. And I think we are looking at the exact moment now. Anthony Milo, the French back marker, colliding with Kenneth O'Keefe in the final corner, and then it led to Nassi going off, and then the whole rejoin issue with Ramos after that. Here is from Benny Simonson's view as well, Wayhan.
Yeah, I think Simonson had nowhere to go. He had no time at all to respond to the sudden change of events in front of him, and that was enough. That meant that he did kind of collect Mikko along the way.
And
So you
then,
can see the chain of events.
yeah, with which resulted in Samuelson taking to the air, and for poor Ramos as well. That was pretty much the end of his race. He did get going in the end and did finish in 21st place, but his chances of maybe getting a late chance to fight for maybe a podium or maybe even the win were very much extinguished at that point.
But at least the main thing is that Benny Simerson ended flat side down rather than roll bar up, even in the virtual sense after that particular carambolage. But yeah, like you say, Adam, it's just a concertina of events that just sort of meant that people's opportunities. We're seeing something with Jerzy Glacz here, and the 23 from Poland. Yeah, he tangles. I think that was with the. Not too sure who that was with, but manages to do a 270, having been collected on the outside of the inside of Mike Knight corner. They come up with the strange names, don't they, the Japanese, on corners. I mean, I recently did an esports commentary where I had to download Suzuka, and even that's funny as well. We've got Richard Basford here from Team Highlighter in the 21. I think we're going to see a replay of a possible incident here. And that's up the hill, I think, going towards the back straightaway.
Yeah, Richard Basford finished 16th place in the end. Only 3 places lost, but he did have to come into the. It shows on my screen that he came into pits for a visit. I think that might have just been something towards the end of the race. Do believe we are running out of time in terms of our time on the air, but once again, Alex, for people that might not have joined us, run through those prizes again that are on offer for the drivers that have finished in the top few positions today. Okay,
well, subject to official confirmation, which I'll give in my Rotax Sim Racing Challenge update early next week. Patrick Woods-Toth from Canada takes home the grand prize of a seat in a Project E20 R Rotax 100% electric kart at the Grand Finals this coming November in Bahrain. So Diogo Francisco picks up €500, Kenneth O'Keefe €250 for third place, Laszlo Zwaver €150, and Curtis Fung making it 3 Canadians in the top 3. I'm sure that some of my friends over, like Scott Mitchell, 12-time Grand Finals competitor himself, will probably be quite happy that 3 of his countrymen have managed to sweep the board, so to speak. So Curtis gets €50 for his trouble as well. So yeah, congratulations to our top 5. A big thank you to all of the 540 competitors that entered from over 60 different nationalities spanning the 4 corners of the globe. But what a climactic way to finish the Rotax Sim Racing Challenge, wouldn't you say, guys?
Loved every second of this afternoon. I don't know about you, Wayhan. I thought all 3 races were absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it certainly were. I think, there were so many surprises at different moments as well. Some incidents, some, in fact, racing moments that we just did not see coming. But of course, I think this is very much sim racing. And, you've always got surprises along the way. And, those unpredictable moments just kind of shape the kind of wonder that racing presents to all of us.
So I think that's probably it from us, guys, wouldn't you say? I think, as you say, Adam, we're coming close to the end of the broadcast team, but what a way to crown our inaugural Rotax Sim Racing Challenge here live on Apex Racing TV. A big thank you for them for making this possible. The live coverage of the pre-finals and the finals. So on behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, Adam Barth, and Wayhan Chan here from a virtual speaking Okayama International Circuit, it's goodbye from the Rotax Sim Racing Challenge, and thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone for taking part, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon.